Order this special facilities and technology meeting at 5:01, April 22nd. Roll call, we have Jeff, Joe, Elena, John, Bill, Glenn, Dean. All right, we're going to go over the bids.
Okay, thank you. All right, what you have in front of you is, and we're here for tonight, is the grounds overview and looking to tie somebody into a contract for 3 years. The paperwork in front of you shows the bid results along with some data that goes with it regarding how the bid went. So first page 3 out of 40, you can see that there were only 2 people who bid it, who actually handed the bid in. There were 4 people who came to the pre-meeting, and they decided not to show up for this. The reason why on this bid form, there's no other information on there. Premier dropped the bid off about an hour before bid was due, but they didn't stay for the bid opening. So that's why you see it. I didn't know who to put in there. Okay. 440 shows a tally sheet that's got some general data on what was expected in the bid package, along with some numbers, some of their bid numbers and comparison. As you can see, the public bid, the bid tally, some of the items that were included and some that were not. Jesperson included his addendum and non-collusion. Premier included his addendum, and but he did not include, it was missing the non-collusion affidavit executed. So because of that, normally that would null and void his bid if he didn't complete the bid package as it was presented. It was in there. It was I won't say highlighted, but there was a bullet point saying, don't forget this and that. Just happened to miss it. So at this point, I think the Jesperson bid is what I would recommend at this point. And you can look at some of his numbers on the other page. He did a few different things. Now, you guys are all aware how we broke it up. Each individual school was, each group of schools was broken up. It was also broken up, and it was given an option to give a bulk price for the entire job. Turf is excluded. Turf is not in this at all. This is what we're talking about tonight is strictly all the grounds and maintenance minus the turf, bars and sweeping and stuff of that nature. So if you look at the numbers, you can see there was a bit of a difference, but Jesperson's for 3 years is total is at $807,000. What I did is I broke it down for myself. I probably should have put it in there, but I didn't. So how it breaks down is this: the first year, and if you back up kind of the algorithm that he used per year, I backed it up a little bit out of that $807,000. It looks like the first year, 2026, it'll be $250,924. 2027 will be $268,777, and 2028 will be $287,300. Okay, that's just backing up that bulk number and the percentage he used per year. I was able to come up with that number. So, my recommendation again is to go with them. I made some other notes too. I just want to make clear, if this complex wasn't done, I went back to his contract. In the year 2025, which is this past year, we would have paid him $225,000 for, let's just say, this building the way it was. Okay. What I did with this is I added many things that we paid him to do that were not in the contract. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $47,000 spread about 3 years, depending on what task had to be done. If the trees at the middle school had to be cut, if at Torrington, if behind a fence line had to be cut. So it wasn't every single year it was $47,000, but in the neighborhood of the total, like 3 years, we would spend that just to get it to where we are here, so it's all-inclusive. So we shouldn't see these individual prices coming in anymore. That included claying and mulching. We're still buying the mulch, but he is now responsible for spreading it and installing it and doing things of that nature. So, you know, looking at the numbers, we're not that far off from where he was. If he's at $250 for the first year, we were paying him $225 with this additional scope of work. The other thing I want to make note of is this complex here. You know, one argument's going to say, well, he doesn't have to cut the grass anymore, which again is true, especially the baseball fields. But if you look at cutting the grass, the amount of time it takes to cut grass, an open field, as opposed to our new landscaping that we have out there with islands and edging and mulch beds and weeding and things of that nature. The old complex did not have anything near the architectural landscaping that we have here. So there is a substantial increase of work here on the complex that was added also. So I just want to note a few of those things, that this is not the same contract that he signed for $225,000 4 years ago. This is a much more intense and clearer scope of work. So with that, if anybody has any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. I guess, well, first, I mean, do we even have a choice? Is it I know you're recommending Jesperson, but is it even an option with them not including, I know in my line of work, I'm not certain how this changes with this type of a budget, where the money comes from and all that, but yeah, you're correct. I mean, if you don't have a part of your checklist, your bid gets thrown out. Whether or not things like that get an opportunity to be rebid, I'm not certain of that.
I don't think so. We have, in the past, we've had people who missed items in their bids, and we've thrown them out.
Right.
Because of that.
Okay.
And let me just say, much less intensity of an item.
Sure. Yeah.
I believe one of them might have been initialing pages, that the guy forgot to initial a page or two, or maybe it was the whole package, and he didn't do it. So as far as the legality end of it, I'm not sure if that is a possibility to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess my other question maybe doesn't necessarily matter. I'm just curious to see how the conversation would have went if they did have everything, but I guess that would be a waste of time to discuss that. But I guess that's all I had for right now.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So the all services bid down below, the bid doc.
What page are you on, Jeff?
On page, well, it's page 5. I don't have the bid request document here, but
No, out of tonight's package.
on tonight's package on number 5 where it says all services. So
Yep.
what we're looking at is 261. Now, the document said all items except number 8 in the RFP.
So we will clarify, he bid it the proper way. We will clarify that in our contract with him. That did get bounced around when I changed the scope of work. So that is a clarifying item that will be in the contract, but he bid it the proper way as he should have. It's not we're not gonna have to go back to that.
Okay, so it would be 261 plus the 50.
Yeah,
So it would have been 311 versus 217.
right.
Okay, that is a big difference.
So,
That's about 300 grand over the course of 3 years. Were there any other reservations?
the only other thing I have to clarify is, and we're going to specify, and I did, I have to make sure it's clear with him, this complex here, 50 Major Bessie Drive, dealing with the landscaping that is happening, that's going to happen. Okay, it might be segmented here a little bit, because we don't own it yet, and we're not clear yet on when we do own it. So there will be a deduct of the first year, and again, I have to work with the lawyer on this, and I have to get a little bit more clarity from O&G, you know, when is it our responsibility? Because right now, it's not our responsibility. We have some stuff here, but we don't have a lot of stuff. As you can see, it's going on right now. They're seeding today, they're weeding today, so they're still taking care of everything right now. And until they accept it, us and including the architect, they accept it, they own it, meaning not us right now. When that happens, that's going to be the only thing that I'm going to speak to the lawyer, how are we going to clarify that? And if we decide to go with Chase, how he is going to back that out.
Okay, so this is all, this was assuming that the facility was totally open.
Absolutely. This
Ready
is
to go.
totally open, 100% ours.
Okay, and my other question was, I didn't see the bid bond attached to either of them. This was,
Okay. Did we, I'd have to look in here
we
deeper.
did, we required a bid bond to both, to anybody who bid, and then it was a performance bond. Obviously, the performance bond was
Yep.
that contract award. So I just
I
didn't
thought
see
there
it on
was-
the checklist. I wasn't sure if it.
No,
got
it's in
removed
there.
or-
If it wasn't a checklist, that's my fault, but if you look in here, the bid bond is in here. Huh?
I didn't. I didn't see it on either one of them,
Okay.
in which case we probably have to rebid it anyways. Because it would be fair to give both of them the opportunity to, at that point. If
Well,
nobody.
I
if-
just
if-
want to make sure that I did not, make sure that's in the package here.
It was in the request was in the RFP you gave us in the full board meeting that we approved. It showed the outline of what was required, and number 1 was bid bond, 2 was performance bond.
Okay. All right, I'd have to just double check that it didn't not get in here, but yes, I guess if that's the case.
So I guess if that's the case, if we're gonna throw them out, which obviously is what we need to do, we would need to do, if we don't have it on either one.
I can't see it.
If we don't have it for either one, that would be a problem.
Yeah, yes, it would. And I must have missed that. And I don't have I didn't include with me right here the actual RFQ for it. So it was included in the outline that I gave you, or was it included in, I'll have to check and see if it was actually included in the RFQ that went out.
Yeah, the one that you gave us we did at facility, we didn't have the full one, but you
Okay.
attached the full one to the full board.
So
The full board one has it.
the only thing we waited for is the lawyers to finish buttoning it up, and that's the one that we went with. So for some reason, that didn't happen. So I'd have to go back to the one that actually went out to bid, and again, I don't have it with me here. I would have grabbed it if I knew to see if it was in there. So that's my point. When we approved it, it still had to go through the lawyer's hands with his blessing, because we changed the entire contract that we were using. The RFQ that we're using, ours was way outdated, so it took him a while to get that together, put together. So it might have been eliminated from that, the actual one that went out to the contractors.
Without the bid bond or the performance bond?
I'm just saying,
I don't think that would be eliminated.
yeah, I'm just saying it may not be, but that's what I want to check.
Okay. Is that something that was emailed to us or not? I'm just, is it?
No, it went public, so it went from the full board, that next day he finished it up, and then we put it out to bid. So it's, if we go online now, I'm sure we can see it. If we go online. Go to our website. Yeah. To look at the actual posting.
I'm gonna guess it was in there because the committee was pretty adamant about the bid and performance bonds. So I'm gonna guess they probably didn't pull them out.
No, the only thing that the lawyer kind of didn't agree with was the performance bond on the landscaping. He says it's not a norm on something like that. On a construction project it is, but on a landscaping project it wasn't. So his reasoning behind that, he went through a couple of different reasons why, and we kind of left it at that.
So the performance bond came out of the,
I believe so.
I guess I would have liked to have known that, but I mean, that is what it is. That's just, that was it was a large conversation about the performance bond because of the whole issue we had with the snow plowing guys.
With the snow removal.
Could we learn a little bit more about why performance bond will be removed? Because I think we learned our lesson for the snow thing. I mean, the snow removal's got to fall under the same category as landscaping because it's pretty much labor and equipment. And I would think landscaping would fall under that same category as labor and equipment. So I don't see why we couldn't carry a performance bond for snow plowing and/or landscaping, for that matter. So if there was a reason to remove it, I'd like to educate myself on that. It'd be good information.
Yeah,
to
I
know.
will definitely get the reasoning from Steve on that, or Shipman.
I guess without these answers, it would be very difficult to send this to the full board.
Review, it's not in the one that went out.
The performance bond and the bid bond are both removed from the RFP that went out.
Yes.
That's, yeah, I would say that's just, Joe just said that's not ideal. That was one of the, if you may recall, that was one of the big conversations we had.
I do, especially on the snow plowing. I do, and he was adamant that it doesn't fit into a project like this. It's more for construction. And with him redoing everything in these contracts, I mean, everything got redone in the RFQs, I should say. So, you know, I did not question or doubt him on that, being our lawyer. So you tell me.
Potentially a dumb question, but is there a requirement are you required to provide those once your bid exceeds $1 million? Or is that like a job, like, isn't there a requirement of?
I'm not sure.
I might be making that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know that one either. I mean, if we want the bid and performance bond, the thing to do would be to just reissue it fast. Then they both come back with obviously you risk two scenarios there. I mean, we've had it happen to us before. Now they know each other's price, but I mean, the only other option is it's an inconsequential item. I don't know the full terms, but there are some provisions in Connecticut General Assembly for like minor changes, things. I don't know how it applies to something like this, but there are certain things that don't cause you to toss something. We've seen that on the building committee. So I think we would want to get more information on this. Anybody else?
I don't know, I understand wanting to get this settled. I don't feel great either way. I don't feel great doing this without a bid and performance bond, and I don't necessarily feel thrilled of kind of putting our tail between our legs and being like, hey, we messed up a little bit, kind of, unless that's not how this looks. That's kind of how I view it, but if that's what we end up going back for and asking for, it just kind of, you're giving somebody a second chance when, I don't know, when maybe they didn't really get it, deserve it. Look, I'm trying to look at this at both sides, that's all.
I understand entirely. I mean, it's a big bid overall for everybody.
Right.
It's a big dollar amount. It's not we're gonna hold everybody accountable. What we asked for, what the bid asked for. I mean, I get it entirely.
I just kind of feel weird about changing things now. It seems like, but unless we feel that's totally necessary as a committee.
I would go with it. It was the intent of this committee to have a bid and performance bond.
I do, okay, I do as well. That is what we discussed, so.
If I may, I understand the conversation, and I think in terms of what Mr. Colegio just shared and what Mr. Pergola shared, I would then recommend, if the board so wishes, to just do an expedited, because now that this had went through legal and the RFQ is obviously been proofed by legal, I think to adding the performance bond as the board wishes, I would say that that could be done in a quicker turnaround, as opposed to lagging it out for a number of days. So I think if the board would, if that's the board's pleasure to make that motion, I would suggest, just in the essence of time, especially we are in the spring season, to do an expedited RFP process so that we can get the bids back, whether or not the other companies choose to bid on it or not. They would have that option, but then they would at least know that one additional piece, and then legally, by adding an additional piece, all said bidders would have that opportunity again. We wouldn't, the other piece that Mr. Pergola had mentioned earlier with the one company not providing a piece of documentation, obviously, if they were doing their homework and tuned in, they would know what they were missing and would then put that plus the performance piece in, but that would be up to them. But I think that would probably be the better way to do it, rather than to drag out another extended period of time. But that would be my opinion, since we are in the spring season and lawns need to be done and things of that nature.
If it's allowable to modify the request, I don't have a problem with that myself, as long as we follow and we get those items that we wanted in there, and look, whoever comes back and bids it, bids it. If somebody chooses not to, they choose not to, but anybody else?
Agreed. Mr. Putnam, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. So what action do we take? Anything? Nothing?
I'm sorry?
Take any action, really, we'll have to come back, probably.
Well, I think the action you can definitely take, since this was the special meeting, is to request the expedited RFP. And that being said, then Dean could work on that immediately and get that out forthwith after we're talking to the attorneys tomorrow. I think that would be the motion made from this subcommittee recommendation to the full board. Or actually, this subcommittee could recommend it, since it came across from facilities the first time.
Yeah, I would assume we would just tell you to do that. I don't even know that it needs a motion, really.
As long as the board is okay with expedited, that's where I get, just so that no one thinks that it's expedited is a short amount of time to get it in. So if you want a 5-day turnaround, 7-day, as opposed to the normal 10 to 15 days.
But would it matter if you can't, I guess because we didn't put it in there, we didn't put it in the specifications like we wanted to. Can you just add it to that?
Yes, but it's still an expert, you'd have to resend it out, so that's what I'm saying.
Well, without resending it out, I'm saying.
No, you do have to, you'd have to repost it. It could be a shortened period of time, but
Okay.
that's my understanding, at least.
I will be on the phone with the lawyer when we leave here and see what his idea is behind this also. I'll tell him where we stand, and we'll follow his lead. And I will get a explanation on why it was not in there.
That'd be much appreciated. Once we have that, we can convene a quick special meeting and get this taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so hearing all this, no action to the full board. Comments for the good of the order?
No, good meeting, thanks.
Good meeting, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 5:26.
to order this regular meeting of the Torrington Board of Education at 5:33 PM. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is above the door you came in. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, okay, Madam Secretary, when you are ready, you may call the roll.
Ms. Conway, here. Mr. Corey,
Here.
Mr. Cronin,
Here.
Mr. Euclid,
Here.
Mr. Kisco, Mr. Knight, Mr. Kalesha,
Here.
Mr. Putnam,
Here.
Ms. Saleo. Here. Mayor Spino or Representative. Dr. Baker. Ms. Ferguson. Here. Ms. Labby. Mr. Pergola. Ms. Schulte. Ms. Vians. And Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. We have next the approval of the agenda. I would just ask for, I think, one adjustment, which is in new information and action. I would add an item 11 and bump the other items down one number, and that item would be review and approval of a communication from Torrington Public Schools to the City of Torrington regarding the former administration building on Midgeon Avenue. We would like to discuss turning that over to them now that we've moved out.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have our agenda. We have next, school community service and public participation. I did see some folks sign up, so I'm just going to read the paragraph. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or on other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to make comments are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, including your name and address, which must be stated at the beginning of your comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members, parents, students, or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. The participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall. I just have one person. Carly Goodwin, come on up.
You hear me now? My name is Carly Goodwin, and I'm here again tonight to speak on the concerns I have with the nutrition. Children come to school to learn, and if you can see that every room they enter holds a learning experience, then you will come to realize that the cafeteria is not just a lunchroom, it is the most important classroom. This is the room that influences every other learning experience in that day and teaches lifelong habits that stay with these kids long after they graduate. Right now, we're teaching kids that Pop-Tarts and Teddy Grahams is the best way to start their day. Well, we all know that's not correct. We wouldn't start our day like that. So why are we teaching this to our kids? A lot of people are under the assumption that because we are federally funded, this is what we get. Well, that's not true. Yes, we are federally funded, but the USDA Foods Availability List provides plenty of whole food options that give us the chance to serve real food. We're just not ordering them. I suggest getting a nutritionist to come and speak at your next PD day so that everyone can truly come to understand the importance of this. It's not a matter of preference or opinion. This is science. Food directly impacts how a child develops, performs, and behaves. And yet we continue to choose convenience over quality every single day. We need to start investing the same time, attention, and resources to this classroom as we do to every other. Torrington is paying one of the highest salaries in the state for their nutrition department. So for a top-tier budget, we should be getting top-tier effort. Yet our menus appear to be the worst. USDA guidelines are defined as minimum nutritional requirements. So you can sit here and tell me that you're meeting the guidelines. Well, great. You've done the bare minimum. Essentially, you've got a 65 on the test. Guidelines don't restrict us from doing better, And these kids deserve more than just the minimum for the amount of taxes we pay in this town. Now, I understand this will take time and a little bit of work, but if you're not willing to put in that extra effort for something as important as a child's growth and development, then maybe this is not your calling, and education should not be in your career path. As a parent, I'd like to remind you all that these might be your students, but at the end of the day, these are our kids. And it's insane that in 2026, a parent has to beg a school not to serve Pop-Tarts and donuts for breakfast. Along with this comes the concern of our wellness policy. It is federally mandated that in order to receive the USDA funding, the district has to have an active wellness committee. You claim this exists, however, I've been keeping track. And under this requirement, it states that a parent and other equal stakeholders are to be a part of this committee. So I would like to know who the members are, how often they meet, and where exactly and what exactly they are implementing. I'm sure tonight you'll throw out a quick blurb about health because I've already brought this concern to your attention, but the real effort has already been noted, and over the past 3 years, all these minutes show a huge fail in this area. If you need active members, sign me up, because I'm not just here to complain, I'm willing to help, and there are so many things that we could be doing to change these kids' lives. I strongly urge the board to start viewing this wellness policy as the primary tool for improving the district's overall outcomes. Let's start practicing what we preach by applying our motto to our menus, which is quid facitis bene fac. What you do, do well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. That was the only speaker I had on the sign-up sheet. Is there anyone else here who wishes to address the board? Okay, thank you. We will now do recognition, so I'll turn it over to the superintendent and our administrators.
Good evening. We have several recognitions this tonight. We are going to start with intermediate school, Principal Klein.
Thank you very much. It looks like my students may have gotten their signals crossed. However, we had a few winners that we wanted to announce and recognize. Pardon me. We had 3 winners from our recent spelling bee contest that we hosted at Torrington Intermediate. One of those was Journey Johnson, the other was Nora Kovacs, and the third place was Gabrielle Zeffi. We're super proud of their accomplishments. They fought through and did some wonderful spelling, well past what my spelling degree would be, but at the same time, they did wonderful with that. We also had a local math Olympiad winner, who is also Gabrielle Zeffi, who had 2 perfect scores through the contest as well. We are super proud of some of our National History Day state qualifiers as well. We had 2 groups. One was our 4th place performance group, which was on the Connecticut witch trials, which was Max St. Germain, Nora Kovacs, Alex Grant, and Tegan Domain, all of our 6th graders. And then a 4th place individual exhibit on the Salem witch trials, which was Anaya Zakowicz. And then lastly, and equally as important, we also had some Invention Convention state qualifiers, which will be going up to UConn on May 2nd. One was Dexter Miller, and the second was a group presentation from some of our 4th graders, which was Jackson Hurd and Jonas Layton. We are super proud of them, and unfortunately, it appears that we will be doing this again at the intermediate school to recognize them, because I apologize they are not here tonight. So thank you very much, guys.
For Fast Academy, Dr. Torres.
Hello. So we are excited tonight to recognize one of our students, Xander Knox. And with me tonight, I brought Mr. Hemingway, one of our teachers, to share a little bit about Xander and why we selected him for recognition this month.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Torres. For those who don't know me, I'm Sam Hemingway. I'm the history teacher over at Fast Academy, and I'm just going to start off real quick. Megan Lamontagne, who is our science teacher and is very close to our student here, Xander, but she was unable to be with us tonight, so she gave a little written statement that she asked me to read, and I'll do that real quick. So the team at Fast Academy would like to recognize Xander Knox for recognition based on his consistent demonstration of kindness, perseverance, and a growth mindset. If you had met Xander in 8th grade, you likely would not know how big his smile can be. Through middle school, Xander hid under his hood, under his hair, and behind a personal wall. This is when he joined Miss Cohen, who is now our math teacher at FAST, in the alternative program at TMS. Xander felt comfortable and started to come out of his shell during that year, and staff was able to see glimpses of his big personality. He had always demonstrated strong academic skills, and we knew he was a very strong student, but many times he felt uncomfortable with an activity or maybe was just having a rough day. Then last year in 9th grade at the alternative program over at the high school, when it was still there, it took the full year for him to finally show his personality and more of his face. And so when the year started, he had only one classmate, and the pair proved to be a great team. Miss F and I were able to see how intelligent and kind he was. He started to participate more in class conversations and always completed his classwork with excellent quality, even completing a full 7 credits using the extra opportunity of Ingenuity, the online credit platform. By the end of that year, you might not have noticed that Xander's all-black attire started to become more comfortable, and sometime he even wore a sweatshirt or a t-shirt without a hood. And this was truly the year of Xander growing into his confidence. Now this year, as a 10th grader, Xander chose to continue in the alternative program at Fast Academy. Xander is the first person to help a teacher out by volunteering to fix a stuck lock or put together a new piece of equipment. In class, he will gently re-explain concepts to a struggling peer. He does this kindly and with great encouragement. After school, you can often find him working on schoolwork or just visiting with staff. In his personal time, he likes to work out, which means that he plays games in PE with a fierce level of competition while always maintaining excellent sportsmanship, which is not easy at that age. There are really not enough words to explain the changes that we have seen in Xander over the past few years. We recognize that some of the changes are because he has teachers that understand and support him, but this is only a part of it. He has persevered through emotional moments and maintains a growth mindset on how to deal with it when he encounters a moment of frustration or sadness now. This commitment to growth and perseverance is what truly has catapulted Xander into the vibrant, compassionate person we see now. Rarely does a day go by when you don't catch a great big smile on his face. So that was the statement from Ms. Lamontagne, our teacher at Fast Academy, and obviously I will just quickly agree with everything that she said about Xander, but I'll briefly add my own to reflect on my own experiences with Xander. He's not just a strong student, he is truly a model for others. Day in and day out, he sets a very powerful example for his peers on what it means to take responsibility, stay engaged, lift others up, rather than tear them down. He's the student who steps forward without being asked, the one who's helping a first-year teacher like myself fix the sink in his room, which I would have been helpless doing. But he somehow could do it. You know, this is a very hands-on learner, and I'm very grateful for that. He's the one who will sit and help a friend better understand a concept. He doesn't seek recognition for it, but it matters. So he raises the standard around him for everyone in the classroom. But what makes Xander truly stand out is his growth. As you've heard, there was a time when he kept himself and maybe confidence didn't come easily. And yet, through perseverance and a commitment to personal improvement, he has transformed into someone who is really willing to meet challenges head on. Today, he stands out as an example of what is possible, the kind of student that we're hoping to really nurture at Fast Academy. He's someone that this whole community should be proud of and really represents Torrington well. So I thank you for letting us speak tonight to recognize him. Thank you.
Vogel Wetmore, Principal Pay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for letting us come tonight and share about one of our students, Jackson Hall. I'm going to let his kindergarten teacher, Miss Lopez, talk to you about why he's so wonderful.
As you can see, he looks a little surprised. Did you wonder why you were here tonight? Yeah? Well, we're proud of you. I'm going to say some wonderful things about you. Okay. All right. So Jackson is a wonderful member of our classroom community. He's kind, caring, and respectful to everyone around him. I get emotional and everything, so I apologize. Each day he comes to school with a positive attitude and a genuine excitement for learning. He's very smart, inquisitive, and curious, and always asking thoughtful questions and eager to discover new things. His enthusiasm for learning is contagious and helps create a positive environment in our classroom. He is always incredibly helpful to both his classmates and the adults in the school. He often offers a helping hand to a friend who may need support and shows patience and kindness in his interactions with others. He consistently follows classroom and school rules, demonstrating responsibility and maturity beyond his years. His strong character, love of learning, and a caring nature make him a role model for others. Just a little story, actually, from today. We had a couple of visitors in our room, and Jackson was, what were you building?
A rocket.
What's the rocket called?
The Artemis.
The Artemis, because we've been learning a little bit about the Artemis as a class, which was an amazing time to learn about, and the staff members that were there were asking him questions, and he answered every single one. I was like, yes. So he did awesome, and we were so proud of him. I am very proud to have him as a student in my class and honored to have him represent Vogel Wetmore School. He truly embodies the values of kindness, respect, and a love of learning that we hope to see in all our students. Congratulations.
And Southwest School, Principal Michelson.
Hi.
This is Casey Jones, and her teacher, Miss Shavinsky, is going to have a few nice things to say about her.
I'm going to say a few words.
She's a little
yes.
shy, too. So
Okay, so Casey's done an amazing job coming into school by herself, happy and always ready to learn. At the beginning of the school year, it was very challenging. We had to have some other staff members help her, and she didn't like to leave her parents, but now she's very courageous and doing a great job coming in all by herself, ready to learn and enjoy school, and she overcame that, and she lights up when she sees me as her teacher, and especially her friends, and gives her friends lots of hugs. And Casey is also very respectful to me and the other teachers in the building. She always listens while I'm teaching. She has excellent manners, and she's very responsible as well. She always makes good choices, and Casey is always a hard worker during school and always tries her best at everything, and always wants to do it the right way. Casey also works hard at home, and she reads lots of books, and she even reads to her younger sister. And Casey also works on math skills at home with mom and dad, right, which has helped her, especially practicing adding those double digits, because that was tricky. So we are very proud of you. Well done, Casey, and we're proud of you being a role model for Southwest School. So keep up the great work. Okay. Can we go get our picture?
Congratulations.
Thank you all for coming, and congratulations to all of our great students who are being recognized. We next have our student representatives report. Come on up.
For our student representative report, we did not do our traditional monthly student recognition this month, but I did ask Ms. Sullivan to come and speak very briefly because we just had our students return from their trip to Europe. So she's just going to say a few quick words before we get started with our student report.
So we had 25 students go with us to Rome, Florence, the northern area of Greece, Okay, sorry. We had 25 students go to Rome, Florence, the northern part of Greece, and Athens. As always, our students did us proud. They were curious, engaged, mature, respectful, punctual. Didn't have any issues this trip with punctuality, and really just thrived off of the experience. We finished the 10 days that we were together with a Greek evening that included dancing and music, and they were the loudest group in the best way. The opas were screamed quite loudly, and they got up and they danced, and they encouraged everybody else in the place to get up and dance. So they were the sort of enthusiastic Raiders that we like to see. They were respectful and engaged when we were at the Coliseum, at St. Peter's Basilica. They were led into discussions of rock formations with Ms. McGillicuddy at Meteora in Greece, and the architecture of the Duomo in Florence. And they showed off their mythology knowledge and Greek history at the Acropolis. And it was really just a very rewarding, very curriculum heavy, but also culturally engaging trip. So they did you proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cheyenne Chen, and I will be your student presenter tonight. Here are some highlights from Torrington High School over the past month. Our host of Future Health Professional students had an outstanding showing at the State Leadership Conference, earning top honors, including a third-place finish in Medical Law and Ethics, winning the State Pin Design Contest, and celebrating Miss Brewer as Connecticut HOSA Advisor of the Year. Our JROTC cadets hosted a memorable military ball at the New England Air Museum, showcasing tradition, leadership, and school pride through a formal evening of ceremonies, recognition, and celebration. Students in our UConn ECE Geology course had the opportunity to visit the University of Connecticut, where they explored campus, engaged with faculty, and experienced hands-on learning that brought their studies to life. We are also proud to celebrate excellence in the arts, such as Sophia Sedlak and Ashley Gentry, that were recognized by the Connecticut Association of Schools for their achievements in music and art. Our Interact Club was honored by the Rotary Club for their continued commitment to service, raising funds for several local organizations and volunteering throughout the community, with more service projects planned this summer and spring. Finally, our arts department continues to thrive with students exploring photography techniques and digital art while building foundational skills that support both creativity and real-world application. Overall, it has been an exciting and successful month at THS, and we look forward to continuing this momentum as we head into the final stretch of the school year.
Fabulous. Thank you. And you're more than welcome to stay if you're passionate about government, but don't feel obligated because we will next dive into a series of reports, starting with the superintendent.
Good evening. My comments will be pretty brief this evening as we just got back from April break. I hope that everyone did have time to rest up and recharge. I'd like to take the opportunity to publicly thank the entire team sitting at this table in particular for their presentation last night of our budget to the Board of Finance. I think it went very well, and we are very hopeful, and we will anxiously await our number. Earlier this month, I attended the Connecticut Superintendent Conference, where some really good learning took place, a lot of good workshops. on a variety of topics, and we got to hear from Dan Heath, who wrote the book Reset. Pretty interesting read, which talks about just some organizational change if needed and things to go about doing that. I know I shared it with my central office cabinet, and that book is currently being passed around as well. But it was a great day of new learning for not only me, but for all the superintendents across the state. Our spring sports programs are well underway, and our student athletes continue to shine both on the field and in their classrooms, just as our drama students and our band students and everyone else. And speaking of drama, very excited that the joint TMS-THS production of The Music Man will take place from May 7th through May 9th, so make sure to get your tickets in advance. We're looking forward to our ribbon cutting to really officially welcome this brand-new beautiful complex, and that will take place this Saturday at 9 a.m. That has been broadcast on our Parent Square, on our social media, as well as the mayor giving us a nice plug last evening. So everyone knows where to be on Saturday. My entire central office cabinet team, as well as myself, continue to be visible throughout all of the buildings in order to see the great work that's going on. You see our students being recognized here this evening, and that's a highlight for the board. We get to see that each and every day when we go into the building. So I know we cannot be prouder of their hard work and the hard work of all of our teachers and administrators. We know that May and June are super busy. Mr. Kisko is a former educator, Ms. Saleo as an educator. They know that this is the end of the year assessment time, which there's a lot going on as we look forward to end the year. But I know that our students are going to continue to work hard and really end the year on a strong note and continue to make us proud and do their best to shine. So we're very excited, and we look forward to that, and we look forward to a strong finish. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the board for the superintendent? Hearing none, we will move right to the Human Resources report. Take it away, Kim.
Thank you very much. So you have my HR report for this month. I am very pleased to report that we have no current vacancies for our certified staff, so that's very exciting. For our classified positions, we currently have a total of 8 positions. To put that in perspective, for this report last year at the same time, we had 2 certified openings and we had 20 non-certified openings. So I feel like our positions, we're in a good place. We're actively interviewing for the 8 classified openings that we have, so we're in a very good position with our vacancies. For our substitute fill rates, we went down a little bit as expected at this time of year. It tends to happen with, flu season and everything. So we are at, the month of March was 77.5, and paras, for teachers, it was 77.5. Paras was 53.1. If you look at our year-to-date numbers, again, we are still trending significantly higher than where we were at this time last year. So we're almost 20 points higher in both of those categories year-to-date. And our absences continue to trend about consistent with our teachers where they've been last year, but our para-educators are down almost 4 percentage points from where they were at this time last year, year-to-date. So we're actually trending very good in all of those metrics. For our updates of what's going on in HR, we have been out and about with job fairs. So we attended Southern Connecticut State University, University of St. Joe's, UConn, CCSU, and we have attended this season CCSU mock interviews with potential teachers and student teachers. And next week we are going to Quinnipiac. Myself and Mr. Michelson and Dr. Torres are going to go to Quinnipiac to do mock interviews with potential teacher candidates as well. And we have posted our tentative vacancies for 26-27, and we are actively looking and sourcing candidates, so especially for our high shortage areas. We have scheduled office hours for May, so we'll be out and about in the schools answering any and all HR questions for anybody on site. And then very exciting for our wellness initiatives, we have returned to our on-site yoga offering that we have at Torrington. They do once a week for a 6-week yoga session, and our annual walking challenge will start next week. If anybody has any questions about page 1 before we move on?
I have a couple of quick ones. So for security,
Yes.
Does that include both the security paras and the
Yes.
ASOs?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And then, I feel like I've asked you this before, but we've been carrying them for a long time. What exactly are the 2 support staff positions?
So one is the athletic trainer, which we talked about, I believe, at the last budget meeting, and we've per the board's request, we've increased the salary. So we're working on trying to source a candidate for that now. And the other one was a tech position that was vacant, and I think we're kind of on hold for that one right now while we're waiting to see what happens with budget, so.
Okay, and what tech position is that? Is that just a support tech? or-
Technology position, for Rachel's department. So there's a vacancy, we had a resignation.
Yeah. Is it, so, just again, because we've been carrying it for a long time, so is it a support tech, or is it some kind of network administrator job?
Just a technology specialist.
Okay, it's just
So,
technology
yeah.
specialist.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Aleo?
Following up to some previous questions in previous board meetings, I just had a few questions. What is the difference in pay between regular Torrington subs and ESS contracted subs, if you know?
The rate that they make is the same. We pay the same. It's consistent. So 145 is what a building sub makes, and 135 is what a daily sub makes, but it's the same rate.
Okay, so what is the cost savings with direct hire versus ESS
Well, there's a
subs?
markup, so there's I don't know it off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but there's a markup for ESS, so it definitely costs us more for ESS. But the benefit is that they do all the hiring and the onboarding, so the savings on our end is from the maintenance and the management of it. But there is a cost savings.
So would you be able to find out how much we paid our own subs for the last 12 months versus the ESS subs?
Yep.
Or the markup in that?
I can get that information.
And are we routinely hiring the ESS subs out of convenience because they do all of the work and the onboarding and the background checks?
We've historically not hired daily subs in Torrington Public Schools. The only daily subs that we hire are certified retirees that are in the VERIP program. But outside of that, the maintenance of the management of the absence management system, where the substitutes pick up the jobs and all of that piece. So their team manages that. They have the call center that manages all of that. So we don't have anybody internal to Torrington that manages any of the daily jobs that get entered and who's picking up the jobs and calling people to come in and work for jobs. That's something that ESS does.
So we don't have any internal subs?
We don't have any internal daily subs. The only
Daily
ones,
subs.
the only ones that we have are we hire building subs that work dedicated in a single building, and then our retiree subs, the ones that are working on the VERIP, on the retirement incentive. But other than that, we don't hire any daily subs that just go into the general pool. We don't do any.
So what happened to those people that were daily subs? Were they supposed to be ported over to ESS?
Yes.
Okay, so you had asked me for some names via email, and I provided you to those names to you, and I didn't get a response. I sent you a follow-up email. So have these people just been dropped from our list? Were they told that they needed to port over to ESS and helped with that? I'm just concerned with that lack of follow-through.
Yeah, I can actually address this. So I asked Ms. Schulte not to continue that conversation because it is highly inappropriate for central office administrators to discuss with Board of Education members the prospect of specific individuals receiving employment from the district. So that's not Kim's fault. That you can put it on me and be upset if you would like, but I just put a stop to it, that particular thread of the conversation, because we do have to be very careful to follow both state and city ethics rules around sort of how we might interfere with employment and potential employment for many reasons.
I understand that, but do you understand that I was asked to provide those names?
Yeah, and I think the central office folks were trying to be accommodating to the situation, as they always would be to a member of the Board of Education, which is why I sort of brought this issue up, because, ultimately, no individual one of us is anyone's boss at this table, but collectively, right, we are in charge of the school district, and it can be difficult, I think, for the people who work for us to say no. So it was something that I opted to step in and address. So that's kind of where that went. So it was not, again, central office administration's fault. to not respond to you. That's something that I asked them not to do, largely to protect you and the board, because, again, we just have to be really careful about what could be seen as an ethics problem, even if your intentions are, of course, pure. I'm not accusing you of anything. It's
I was
more of
just answering
protecting
the
you from an
questions.
inadvertent risk.
I was just answering the questions that were asked of me to follow up. And I want to make sure that we're doing the most cost-effective savings that we can be doing. And then, so in the future, if that could be communicated to me, that why the conversation stopped. Again, I just want to do what's best for the district. So I appreciate your follow-up now.
And it is, I just want to make it clear, it is a completely reasonable discussion to talk about building subs versus daily subs, agencies versus non-agency, the circumstances under which, in the abstract, an individual may or may not be retained, hired, et cetera. The Board of Education members, unless there is a legal process happening, like a termination hearing, a grievance, things like that, would not be engaged in individual personnel matters. So that's where the actual line is. So I am not by any means interested in trying to cut off any discussion about how we hire substitutes. It can't be how did we hire or not hire a specific substitute, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want, I can just, there is, when I bring the other information back, about, I want to say, 4 years ago or so, I did a full assessment on the cost savings using an agency versus having it in-house because of the staff that we would have to hire to manage it in-house, plus liabilities and penalties with the Affordable Care Act and the things that ESS manages for us, that we would then have to absorb those costs. And there was a significant savings on our side, but I'm happy to do that assessment again and bring that back for you to see so that you can understand where the cost savings is.
Or even the old data, I would
Yeah.
love to take a look at. I don't want to make you do
Sure.
a bunch
Yep.
more work.
Nope, I absolutely have that, and I can bring that forward
Thank
just
you
so
so
that
much.
you can take a look at that, because it's a very valid question, but there's significant cost savings just because of penalties with Affordable Care Act and things like that, that having an agency certainly helps us from that perspective.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions on the first page? Okay. Moving on to the second page, just going over, again, you can see that our fill rates are good, and we have a significant number that are filled by the ESS subs, so you can see that ESS has been successful in recruiting and retaining additional candidates. And then in looking at our, you can see the absence percentages. I won't go over that in detail, but just in looking at the staff turnover, our staff turnover is pretty consistent with where we've been at this time last year. In particular, paraeducators, custodians, nurses, and teachers are all below where we were at this time last year. So I'm happy to answer any questions on page 2.
Any further questions, Mr. Putnam?
Just one quick one. The little note that says 15 year end, are they included in the 25 or is
Yes,
that going?
they are included in the year end.
Thank you.
Yes.
Say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just, Elena, just so you know, with a long conversation about ESS versus Kelly, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago? We were having, I remember that being a very difficult time finding subs at the time. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, or anybody else, but we went with ESS, and it doesn't really address your issue, but we had an incredibly difficult time filling these slots, and it was costing a lot more money to have a teacher act as a sub all day or taking teachers in and out. I think, and again, Kim, with ESS, we've had much more success in filling. It doesn't really answer your question, but it's been a long discussion about how to fix the problem. So I don't know the answer otherwise to what you're faced with, so.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Schulte. We next have Dr. Baker with the Special Education and Student Services report.
Good evening. I'm going to start with the overall special ed numbers for April 1st. As you can see on page 1, the overall rates of students that have either moved in or have been newly identified in district from pre-K to 22 is up by 9 students. Our in-district K-12 students was up by 7. Our overall in-district prevalence rate was only up by 0.1%. We're still remaining at 17.7%. Our in-district pre-K, we're up by 5 students. Our in-district age 18 to 22 at our TTA Academy has remained the same at 13. Our outplacement for our 18 to 22-year-old students has remained steady at 3. Our current outplaced by PPT in grades K through 12 has remained steady at 67. Our agency placed by DCF or court was down by 1 student, and our magnet, parent choice, and VOAG students are down by 2 from 40 to 38. Our 504 students did increase this month by 20 new students added onto 504 plans. Any questions regarding that page?
I do.
Sure.
Sorry. Could you explain, again, I've asked the question before and I didn't understand the answer. And prevalence rate, I asked about the increase.
This is a great bridge to page 2 and 3 that I provided for you so that I can kind of explain and understand. So prevalence rate, in terms of the definition, is really meant for the State Department for us to be able to monitor either an over-identification or an under-identification of students overall, and in addition, by their specific primary disability. So what I provided for you on page 2 is on EdSite, the public dashboard, there's 2 different ways that they look at the prevalence rate there, and I'm going to be able to summarize it pretty neatly for you. The top portion, it shows you that's our DIRG. We are in our district rating group, which is towns that are similar to us. That top dashboard that comes off of EdSite is pre-K through 12. That prevalence rate for us in Torrington in 24-25 was last at 20.1%. I'll tell you that the top DIRG was 22.9 and the lowest DIRG was 19.8. We remained steadily in the middle of that rate. I'm also sharing with you what's called the APR prevalence rate. It's just a different way to calculate prevalence rate for special education. The only difference in these 2 charts is that the bottom chart doesn't include pre-K students. That number is given to every special education department annually on what's called our annual report card. What I did do for you guys on the bottom one was I went into each of our DIRGs over the last 5 years report cards and was able to report out on the prevalence rate for Torrington, where you'll see we are currently at 19%. The highest DIRG rate was 21.4, the lowest was 16.8. So again, we're in the median range of both of those different prevalence rating charts. Simplistically, top chart does have pre-K kids in it. A lot of times districts will use that to just look at how to service kids, making sure programming is in place. I then did on page 3 just a quick 5-year prevalence trend so that you could see Torrington's prevalence rate, the DIRG G, which is surrounding towns that are like us, and then the Connecticut prevalence rate. In Torrington, from 2019 to 2024, over those 6 years, we had incurred a 2.3% increase in students who are identified with a primary disability. In the DIRG, they also had an exact 2.3 percentage rate, so we were right on target with our DIRG. And lastly, the state of Connecticut has incurred a 2.2% prevalence rate. So we are right on track, not just with our DIRG, but also with the Connecticut state average. Everyone has gone up about 2 to 2.5% in the area of identification of students with primary disability. The last piece I did put in for you was the primary disability trend, because we track this data not just weekly, this is daily. We're consistently on EdSite. We also keep track of our primary disabilities and what that trend is looking like, because that helps us plan for programming within district and making sure that we're supporting the students within our community. I will tell you, our deepest increase right now had been in autism, and you could see that 5 years ago, where we had 96 students, we're up by 45 students being identified with that primary disability rate. The acuity in servicing the students with that primary disability does vary, but I wanted you to be aware that the increase we had in autism, emotional disability, and intellectual disability is typically in students that have a higher acuity rate and tend to be in programs. I do want to give a special shout out to the special education staff in this district is outstanding. The teachers, the support personnel, the clinicians that we have, I meet with them monthly, but they've done an outstanding job at working with our pupils. And I just wanted to say that this prevalence rate being on point with a median rate is really something to be celebrated. It means that we're keeping kids in our district community when they need to be, and our teachers are actually able to meet kids' needs. Does anyone have specific questions about any of those charts?
I do.
Go ahead, Gary.
Let's go.
First.
Well, you bring up autism and emotional disability and intellectual disability.
Yes.
They're big increases.
Yes, sir, in that order. Autism, then.
What do you think you're going to attribute it to?
I
think
will
it's just
tell you the
Torrington,
variable ratio, this is not just a statewide issue right now. We're seeing this nationally. Many of our families are coming in with pediatricians' notes. They are supporting giving kids the extra help that they need so that they can come to school so that we can actually be able to work with them. There's an increase, not just, in those 3 disabilities for us in Connecticut, but that's a national trend that we're seeing.
But you see learning disability go down.
Well, and you have to remember, there's 13 primary disability categories on that front page. So you do see that go down, but we do see the variability spike in the other disabilities. So just know that they aggregate in that large, where it says other disabilities and other health impairment, there's multiple disabilities within there. But that is something we have to keep track of in terms of all 13 of those categories. But there is that spike specifically in autism, and we will keep monitoring that to make sure that we're programmatically supporting all of our families in our community and our students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In that same vein, I've read this argument made quite often that like many of the students who maybe in the past would have just been in the learning disability or other disabilities category, or even emotional disability, are now being positively identified with autism as that field of medical science has expanded.
Absolutely, and there's comorbidity in so many of these different primary disabilities where kids can share 2 and 3 sometimes different primary disabilities, all making sure for us that however the primary disability comes out, for us the end result is making sure that programmatically we're meeting the needs of all of the different comorbidities. But you are correct, that is an issue nationally.
Now, one more question. I'm sorry.
So let's stay on this thread, actually. We talk about primary disability. How does that impact, like, what program a student is in? So let's say,
That's a great question.
like, a student has a significant physical disability, and that's very noticeable, and that's their initial primary disability, but they are later diagnosed with autism. How do we balance the various comorbidities as we look to place them in programs?
So in the district, we have a wonderful, what's called a continuum of services, right? So that LRE needs to be represented. So from inclusion models where kids can go in and be included, we also have resource rooms where kids can get some private instruction for certain subjects and still go out. But then we have programs in our district. So we have something called a Thrive program that is from K all the way up that supports students with the emotional disabilities. We have something called our Voices program, which does support the students who have autism. And then we also have something called Life Skills program for kids who are more intellectually disabled or maybe more physically disabled. They would be able to be supported a full day if they needed within those programs.
Great. Sorry, Gary, I have a couple. So I'm actually looking at the categories. Where do students whose primary disability is physical, where do they live? Do they live in other health impairment?
That's called it's called a multiple disability. So all 13 are not charted on here.
Okay.
You'll notice that they clump some when they called other disabilities. That's a bunch of different disabilities together, but that would be a child who has what's called a multiple disability. So like an intellectual disability in addition to a physical disability, that would be categorized as a multiple disability, because primarily we can't say one versus the other, so we try to make sure that we're inclusive of all of the diagnoses.
Okay, and so what gets included in other health impairment versus other disabilities?
That is
mostly-
typically ADHD. It's called another health impairment, and it is done with ADHD with and without hyperactivity. So there's a couple of different disability categories that fall within there.
Great, all right. I won't pester you with any more.
No, that's
though I probably
okay.
could go at this topic for a
I
long
love the
time.
topic, so
But
I don't
Gary,
mind.
you had something you want to bring up.
You asked a couple of them, but in terms of budgeting, the autism, emotional, and intellectual, how do we, does it take more dollars per student in those categories of disability? And how do you budget for
Yes,
that?
overall, of course it would, because the programming is going to be more specialized. I will tell you what we are seeing is there's a lot of students moving in district that were not necessarily just ours and now are being labeled with this disability category. But yes, they will be more intensive in terms of the services. We have something called related services. So above and beyond them getting special education in their classroom, they would also be receiving speech and language services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, all counseling. Those are all related services. So yes.
So our budgets reflect the future growth? Do you think those are the?
Yes, we're monitoring very closely. This is why I'll tell you we're on looking at this kind of data daily, is because we're making sure that what's happening in the classrooms, we're able to support the students and their families.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you so much for this data. This was great. A lot of things to go over.
Mm-hmm.
It did bring one other question to me. I know there's been a big push over the years for, more push-in service versus pull-out services for special ed.
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing, and what do we do to continue to support that, in our district? What is the
That's a
general
great question, and
consensus?
I will tell you, everything is 100% individualized. There'll be plenty of times where, families and students will want that push in, and we will support to be able to do that. But there are times that is not what's most appropriate for a child, so every single one of those decisions has to be driven by the IEP. We're working now with making sure we're supporting inclusion, teaching teachers on like embedded coaching cycles. For next year, we want to work with Ed Advance on how to do a good job of co-teaching. But it's a constant weekly meeting with the special ed supervisors and our teams to talk about making sure we're supporting our teachers and delivering the service that is right for students.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for the data. It was
Very welcome.
Very
Thank
good
you.
to go through.
That actually does bring me to one more question. Sorry. It's kind of a big one, but I'm familiar, obviously, with how the process goes and sort of what an IEP meeting kind of looks like. But what's sort of the push-pull for, the family, right, versus the district's ability to provide? And what I mean by that is that not unreasonably, every parent is going to come into this PPT meeting looking for the absolute best and most for their child, as anyone
course.
would. And as a school district, we have limited teachers, space, resources. So how do we balance that? Because obviously we can't shut down a family's request for
course.
support, but we also cannot provide every student with a $500,000 education unless their family is willing to pay the tax rate that would require. So
Agreed.
where do we kind of land?
I'm going to tell you, I think that's where the shout out to this current special ed department, the teachers, and the special ed supervisors are actively involved in all of those meetings. That just takes continuous meeting time, meeting with families and going over what is best for a child. There's no panaceic, simplistic answer to it because there's so many variables, but I think that's where the human connection and the care just comes into play that I've seen over this past year, that I just couldn't be prouder of the special ed supervisor and the special ed teachers and the related services people in our district, because that is just a constant monitoring. And there will be times when we can't support a student and they will need an LRE outside of this continuum. But those are just consistent meetings that have to take place.
Thank you. Welcome. No, that's fine. I did too. Go ahead.
So I'll bring in the discussion of food. Do we look at, you bring up autism and ADHD. Is it possible for the special ed department, or do they look at their diet and how it may impact their behavior? Because there is a lot of science on that.
Medically, we're not allowed to like have conversations even within the PPT realm that are specific to things like, medicine but diet, it can be discussed.
No, I mean, can we
if they
offer
did want
something
to.
as part of our cafeteria program? Can we offer
No,
something
it's
that's
not
recommended?
typically under IDEA. Food doesn't fall under the IDEA
But it
component.
would behoove us to maybe suggest what might work for certain disabilities. I mean,
Again, we're within the educational realm that we have to remind people all the time. We're not doctors at the table. Like, these are called educational primary disabilities specifically, so that we can write a goal and objective about how a child can access their education better. That's under IDEA, not foods.
there's no way to incorporate. The reason I say this is if it will help some children, and we can provide that diet at a slightly different cost, and it can improve the outcome, can you make a recommendation? I don't mean to the parent, I mean to the board, as to there is a possibility of us offering something. Is there a reason why we can't do that, other than we don't
Just
wanna do it?
under IDEA, our charge is specific to education, so not that I know of.
What's IDEA, because I don't know.
So under these IEPs, we're under a federal law. The IDEA law is where we can do all of these individualized education plans. So that law is about accessing education. So when we write an IEP, that's an educational goal, and how kids can access our education system.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Thank you.
We will next hear from Ms. Ferguson from the Office of Teaching and Learning.
Good evening, everyone. So tomorrow is our final professional learning, district-directed professional learning session for this current school year. And tomorrow afternoon, our K-12 educators district-wide will be working on anticipating student needs in advance of instruction to support rigorous thinking and protect cognitive demand, led by OTL. They will refine lessons to ensure that the lesson design builds access for each and every learner, strengthens students' abilities to productively struggle. You've heard us talk about that this year, promotes more targeted and meaningful student-to-student discourse, increases student engagement and in student confidence, and catches misconceptions before they take root. During the professional learning session, teachers will focus on the thinking process that students will need to engage during the instruction: reasoning, justification, problem solving, and sense making. They will evaluate a task. They will refine it to support the development of higher order thinking skills. They will determine effective supports for students who may not know how to begin the work, so they can make progress without being told exactly what to do and how to do it. There are additional offerings for our special educators. They will be working on IEP goal development in alignment with standards. Special ed para-educators will be working with our board-certified behavior analysts regarding school-based behavioral support strategies. Our library media teachers and para-educators will be reviewing the state K-12 model digital literacy and well-being curriculum and current TPS programming, and our middle school staff is going to be focusing on boosting student engagement. Unrelated to that, but very important, is that testing season is currently underway. Our high school juniors took the SATs on April Fool's Day. Those who missed it, who were absent, took the makeup today, actually. As we work our way through the remainder of the month of April and into May, we will administer the ESPA, the NGSS, as well as our own universal screeners, the STAR, the DIBELS, et cetera. We're just about finished testing the 50 juniors and seniors who opted in for yet another test, this one to test their proficiency in a language other than English, in an attempt to be awarded the seal of biliteracy upon graduation. These 50 students tested in 8 different languages. this year: Spanish, French, Italian, Mandarin, Latin, Burmese, Vietnamese, and Fulani. We will be honoring our Seal of Biliteracy Award winners at awards night and at a special ceremony for the students and their families in June. We are firming up plans for summer learning. We'll be posting those teaching opportunities at the beginning of next week.
Fabulous, thank you. Does anyone have questions related to that report? No, you are off the hook, thank you. We will now hear from Ms. Gagnon for the food service report.
Good evening. I would love to announce our Facebook page is up and running. We had our first share today. It was a monthly newsletter, so I want to go ahead and start, hopefully monthly, posting newsletters about what's going on in our program, just to really get the news out there to the parents. I'm also proud to announce we'll be entering into a pre-purchase plan with a local farm right here in Torrington. They will be growing our produce for the 26-27 school year. They're going to be growing lettuce varieties, cucumbers, tomatoes, lunchbox peppers, and many more items for the growing season, and we're looking forward to offering these to our students. They're excited to be partnering with Torrington Public Schools and look forward to visiting our students in the cafeterias. He's willing to come out and do taste testing with the students and have them recognize the difference between his lettuce varieties or his produce versus the store-bought stuff. There is a substantial difference. So he is more than excited to jump on and join us for next year. He is bringing potential for field trips to his farm. I will be bringing our managers there by the end of the school year to have that connection so it can grow our relationship with him. And then I would like to address the concerns that have been brought to my attention. I do want to acknowledge I always work with food service staff to come up with new offerings that fit within the federal guidelines. My assistant and I attend food shows regularly to find new products for our students that offer a healthier visual. The breakfast items being served to students are not standard products purchased off the grocery store shelf. The Pop-Tart is not actually on our menu, but it's offered as an alternative for students who don't want what is on the main menu that day. Instead of a child going hungry, they're given something that they would like. These Pop-Tarts are formulated with natural colors and flavors and do not contain high fructose corn syrup, include a higher content of calcium, protein, and fiber that normal Pop-Tarts do not. Please view the newsletter and you will see all the guidelines and standards that we do have to follow every day. The grain options are a required component of the school breakfast program. These items are not being offered. We are violating our compliance regulations and putting our program at risk of losing our federal funding. That funds 95% of our program. Our upcoming May menu will include new items that fit the style of breakfast served in each school. We have schools that have the opportunities to sit and eat in the morning. They're currently offering breakfast sandwiches, breakfast pizza, yogurt parfaits. It's the grab-and-go schools that are difficult. These children are grabbing their little bags in the morning and they're eating in their classrooms. So time temperature sensitive items, it's really hard to come up with new products. I got my teams together last week. We came up with ideas. So you will see them in the new May menu coming out. Looking forward to that. I do also want to share that our participation rates on a standard national average, breakfast is 19 to 22%. We are currently at 45%. These kids need food and they're eating food. Keeping us very busy at that. And as far as lunch, the national average is 56%. We are currently 75.5%. The men and women in our kitchens work very hard for our students, and I would just like them to know they are appreciated. One more positive note, I am excited to share my technology assistant and I have found a new software program that I've been struggling to find. We have found a software program that parents will be able to access every single product we purchase. They will be able to click on it. They will know all the nutrition facts and ingredients. They will be able to build their students' meal. It will have every component, everything that their child is consuming. Very helpful for the nurses, too. The nurses have all of our nutrition information, but this will be so much more streamlined. It takes at minimum 90 days to build it, so next school year, it'll be up and running.
Thank you. That's all very exciting. I think especially the nutrition fact stuff is going to be really good. So just so I understand like what you're describing, so what it sounds like is, you know, let's say I want to see this stuff, so I go and I look at the menu or go wherever this lives, and I just say, all right, what's my kid going to be eating for lunch on Monday? How many calories? How much sugar? And I can just, it's one click and it's there.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Yep, you can build a meal. There's a build a meal option right in the corner. You can select the apple slices we purchase, the muffins we purchase, build the breakfast sandwich, it'll be on there. And it's in 180 languages, so
Great.
I'm hoping it's a one-stop shop.
Fabulous. I just wanted to ask then, one other thing, just kind of looking ahead, right? Because we went over like the program's budget this year as part of the discussion, and you know we discussed how there's like a modest yearly surplus. So I'm not asking, I'm not putting you on the spot now, but like we discussed last night with the Board of Finance, that's one area that is a real positive for us, right? We have high rate of participation. It's bringing in more money than we're spending. So let's start to think about what we can do to sort of build on that, right? To spend that surplus maybe on one-time things, but really I would love to talk about like programmatic stuff, right? Maybe you're going to come back and say, well, we're going to put X amount more into food, or maybe you want to bring in a specific employee with certain skills. Let's take this money that we're getting and kind of reinvest it. So I don't expect you to have an answer right now, but it's something that I think we want to put on the radar.
Yeah, we have definitely moved. A year ago, I applied for a grant to hire a chef for the district. So unfortunately, we didn't receive it, but you never know what the future holds.
Well, and what are we pulling in surplus revenue, if you will, for your program right now? I mean, would that be sufficient to sustain that position? Because if so, I mean, I think it's something the board would be interested in supporting for you.
At this time, not right now, we wouldn't be able to, because I have invested money this year into other things. Going forward, it's something we can absolutely revisit next year and see where we're at and incorporate it. Even if it's a part-time position, I'm not against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds to me, just at first hearing of it, it sounds like something that would really be worth doing.
Yes.
That's all I have for now. Put a pin in that discussion as we roll out some of this new stuff. Does anyone else have anything? Kristen?
Hi, so first of all, I'm happy to hear of all these changes. I do tend to agree with what Ms. Goodwin said, and I know that I really can't address her, but I would like to see some changes to our school menu, and I'm glad that you're making those changes. I hope that it continues to go in that positive direction and we continue to see more changes. That being said, if you can't afford a chef, I'm happy to volunteer my time.
I would love that.
I'll be happy
really
to go
would.
to any school that you need me to.
Yeah.
And I am Serve Safe certified and I have a culinary degree.
All right.
So I will do that if it helps these kids.
Perfect.
eat better.
Continuing ed, I love it.
All right.
I love it. I'm all about it.
Thank you for the report. Question for you, and this is just theoretical. I'm going to piggyback off of the special ed. Every child gets a free meal here in Torrington. I know there are some families that can afford meals, probably a lot more than people in this room will admit to. I don't believe in everybody getting a free meal because there are families that can afford it. I understand there's the equity issue and the embarrassment at the counter if your card runs out. My kids always ran out. My wife always forgot. But can we offer a menu, identify things like autism or ADHD or these other issues? Because you can create a menu now. Can you create a menu to satisfy the parents that have children with those disabilities and offer that by picking and choosing whatever the offerings are And also, for the parents who want to pay a little more, can we offer a different menu and I don't know if we can legally, charge, or they can opt in to pay another $2 for each meal, to give them a healthier choice. And I'm not saying our choices aren't, again, because of her discussions, and to be honest, all my grandkids, they don't have any of these issues. We're lucky, but they have all my grandkids and kids have a very strict diet. I don't, but.
So with paid districts, you can do tiered pricing. And you can offer those different
Which districts, I'm
options.
sorry?
Paid districts, going back to being a full paid district. You can offer tiered pricing per product that is being sold. So deli sandwiches can have one price, the main meal will have another price. You can do that. But because we're CEP, we cannot do that.
CEP being what?
Community eligible provision, meaning we are an in-need district and we offer our meals for free to students. And as far as answering the question with the different food items for the specialty needs, we can provide any meals just as long as we have a medical note for a student. We have to abide, if there's a medical professional saying that this student should be eating this, we will provide that. We just need to be given it. And their profile will be noted. So they cannot leave that register with something that they're not supposed to have. So just as long as a medical professional signs off on it, we have to abide by that.
It might be a good announcement to make for families who are concerned. It might alleviate some of the stress and anxiety.
It has been there for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, so.
Back when I was a manager, there is many students in there that have the dye allergies. They have blueberry allergies. It's an allergy requirement. We have to have that. And it pops up and stops the student in their tracks. They cannot pass you until you clear that note in the screen. So any medical needs that a student has is in our profile.
Do we have any parents that have ADHD, children with ADHD diagnosis? Do we have any parents that opt in, or are they aware of it? Because I do believe food has a lot to do with it, but, is there something you can create for those parents and any other parent?
Unfortunately, that's none of my information to even know. I can't know this. This information comes directly from our nurses. Our nurses provide the cafeteria managers with the restriction that the child has. We do not know their medical diagnoses.
Oh, I get it, yeah. But a parent, if there is a doctor's note or there is an issue like ADHD, you can do that.
Right.
You will do that.
Just as long as the nurse gives us the information, we will note their file and it will stop the child in their tracks. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, to be clear, right, like the physician, the child's physician would have to specify specific things they either must eat or must not eat. They can't just say, this child's a patient, they should be on an ADHD diet, because we're going to say, well, what is that?
Right.
Right, I would expect the parent to work with them to get the doctor, the menu with the doctor, but.
Right, so in all cases, and this is true in this department and in every other department, right? If a physician who is treating the student says, this must happen, we accommodate that in food service and in everything else. Because we don't, to what Dr. Baker was saying, we're not physicians, we don't employ a physician, we don't make diagnoses, and we don't set treatment plans. Any other questions, Mr. Kisco?
Earlier in the year, the School Improvement Committee heard a very enthusiastic presentation from someone from the Extension Service about the Farm to Cafeteria program. That's maybe not its real name. Is your contract with the farmer a part of that?
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is. They were our direct connection to him. Yep.
Anyone else?
Yep. This is actually a question I had last night from something you had said, Mr. Corey, and correct me if I'm misremembering this, but I know this is kind of like you explained, this is a self-sufficient system, and we're reimbursed for the meals, so it's no money out of our pocket. And then in some cases, I think where this had come up was that the question was asked, like, streams of revenue, this being kind of a small area in which there is revenue. You had explained that that money gets reinvested as it should for better quality. I guess my question is, like, is it all, a large surplus? Is that every year, is that reinvested? Is that, you kind of let it wait to accrue for a couple of years and then, I'm just curious about how that works.
Yeah, so part of the discussion this year was we've made some some one-time investments, right? Both in the food service program and approved transfers out for certain things, because it is monitored by the state of Connecticut, right? So they have to tell you if things are okay. The not issue, but the question at hand that we were just talking about, I think that you're talking about, is there is a year-over-year surplus, right, generally in what the program receives in reimbursements through the grant versus what we spend. That number fluctuates a little bit, of course, year over year. So that's really, I think, what we're talking about now, because we have mostly spent the built-up surplus money on various improvements. But now we're talking about, stopping it from building up, right? If we're pulling in, this is a fake number, I'm just making it up. If we're pulling in $20,000 a year extra, what can we spend that on so that it doesn't accumulate? And that's where we were talking about potentially a chef. And one thing, what we're talking about it too, nothing, as far as I understand, would preclude the Board of Education, if we had money, from kicking in extra dollars for this program. I mean, it doesn't have to live on what it receives from grants. It just does because it can, and we don't have any money. But if we, if part of your proposal is for a chef, right, and you have an operating surplus of $40,000, but it really is going to cost $70,000, we could have a discussion as this group about an investment of $30,000 a year out of our operating budget to support that. So I think that's worth keeping in mind too, that it may be an investment the board is looking to make. I hope that addresses the question. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We next have the monthly financials. They are, before I say they are in the packet. Oh, I skipped the liaison reports, sorry, I checked them off erroneously. All members have copies of the liaison reports which have been received. They're available online as well. If any of the building administrators or liaisons would care to append additional information, now is the time. Great, thank you all. Now it's monthly financials. I have to find them. I don't know what page they're on. I'm looking. I assume they're here. They are here.
31.
Great. Donna, would you like to just tell us a little bit about them?
Certainly. Good evening, everybody. Everyone received their packet for the monthly financials up to March 31st, 2026. And we are in good shape. We're about 75% through the fiscal year and about 75% through our budget. So we did go over some items that were a little under and over at our budget committee meeting, but in general, we are looking good. You will see in the bottom left corner of page 31 that we do actually have a little revenue coming in for the rentals for our facilities. So that's something that has been updated. And I didn't know if anybody had any other questions, concerns over the line items?
Will you please let the city of Torrington know that I was a liar last night when I said that this was a 4-digit number? Because it's not.
It was a 4-digit number for a long time, so we just actually brought that in.
Okay.
But I will.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything for the monthly financials? If not, I will hear a motion to approve them. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The monthly financials are approved. We now have committee reports, starting with Mr. Kisko.
The April School Improvement Committee meeting heard a report, a community partner presentation from the Western Connecticut Coalition, which went very well, presented by Travis Tanuas and others, and Travis is well known to this committee. And we heard the report on the high school, finishing up our school reports for the year, and that was handled a little differently with various members of the faculty and students making the basic presentation. Students as young as the class of 2040 came to the table to make their presentations. Those of us who were at that meeting know what I'm saying. And that went very well. school visit. Kristen, would you like to say anything about the school visit? You were part of that. You take better notes than I do and pay more attention than I do.
I did, and I no longer have those notes.
I'm putting you on the spot, I know that.
That's,
and I'm
that's
sorry.
perfectly fine. Thank you to Mr. Scott. We had a wonderful visit, as always. We saw the auto shop room that's new. That was really cool to see. We got to see a ramen demonstration and the cooking class. Got to see some classrooms, hands-on work. Yeah, it was a nice visit, so thank you. I'd love to see all the great things happening at the high school.
Thank you. And the other thing we did, and now I'm going to put Mrs. Ferguson on the spot, because we chose our district distinguished alumnus, and would you like to say a couple words? But you do the work, so you should be able to make the announcement.
Oh, thank you. So you want me to go ahead and share the name?
Oh, please, we're ready, right? It's
We're ready,
official,
we're
right.
ready. So the committee has selected Cheryl Mado Abbott as the recipient of this year's Distinguished Alum Award. I've had the privilege of speaking with her a couple of times. She is a prima ballerina. We are very excited, came all the way through school in Torrington. I believe her family still lives here in Torrington. Her folks live off of Charles Street, I believe. She's very excited. It took me several days she and I went back and forth. She was away out of state. She may have even been out of the country, traveling and teaching. She still is a teacher of dance. She was blown away by the the outreach, and so excited to accept the award, and she can't wait to come. She's bringing her family the evening of the scholarship night, so very excited. So I'm really excited to meet her.
Thank you. We will not be meeting School Improvement Committee in May because we have given up our meeting slot to the Ad Hoc Artificial Intelligence Committee. And we will meet in June, and that will be our last meeting for the year. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kisko. We will next hear from the Policy Committee. Mr. Euclid, has the Policy Committee been convened, and have you been attendant, or should we pass it to somebody else?
I didn't attend building. That'll be Kalesha tonight. Policy was pretty quick last time. We have an action item, number 10, regarding the age 5 admission to public school cutoff. September, I forget the date, but we are in favor of that. And the other thing was screens, and it will continue on May 6th. We discussed it, but it's going to take more time, and we will be discussing it on May 6th after after the AI meeting, I should say. And that was it.
Questions? Great. Thank you. We have Facilities and Technology, which I understand not only had its monthly meeting, but has also just met. So, Mr. Cronin, you want to tell us about that?
I was out of state, so I'll defer to...
I'll cover the first half then. The first meeting we had earlier in the month, we went through the technology stuff as we usually do, had a nice presentation from Ms. Vaines, and then we also went through the revised capital budget. We looked at the landscaping RFP. We also looked at the snow plowing costs we were incurring for this year, went through all those things, and just an overall normal meeting in facilities.
And do we want to cover the special meeting? I know the agenda items that were on that agenda are also later on our agenda tonight, so we can wait.
Mr. Cronin will cover that.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to push that off until we get all the necessary paperwork.
So just to be clear, the committee made no recommendation on the items that were in front of it. Great. Okay, thank you. And I know I'm told that there are some answers to some of the questions the committee was asking. So when we get to that on our agenda, we'll afford some time. You have to do it right now. When we get to those items, we'll afford some time to get some of those answers for you. We next have the Budget Committee. Mr. Putnam.
Sure. We had our monthly meeting for the budget. We went over the monthly financials you guys all just saw in the packet. the budget team also came to us with our student activity account summary that we get once a year and see the different amounts of funds in the different accounts. And we had a just general discussion on those items and some topics for future meetings about bringing revenue into the district, how we can do that with various special ed programs and things, just a future discussion. And then, of course, we had our presentation of the budget to the city last night. So other than that, it's been pretty tame on the budget front.
Great, thank you. And we do have some time on the agenda to just discuss the budget happenings later as well. Does anyone have anything for the budget committee? Great, thank you. And Mr. Euclid called you out, so Mr. Klesch, tell us about the building committee.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So over the break, we had some of the inside work was completed, the biggest part of that being the access to central office and the elevator there. I hear that it's large, for the most part working. I think there's some minor tweaks that have to be done, but that I think is still coming down the chute. Some of the concrete walkways outside have been completed, and then the other sidewalks that surround the varsity baseball field and softball field are currently underway. Eagle fence, about 90% done with the fencing around the baseball fields, and the dugouts remain to be done. For again, the varsity baseball fields are shooting for a May 1st opening, so I think that's still on track. I don't think there's any worries with that. Let's see, softball, the backdrop holes are set. Liberty Landscaping will start the field work as soon as the sidewalks are done, so that'll follow right with the sidewalks. And weeding, mulching beds, all that's starting now that we have the warmer weather. Hydro seeding is going to start as well, and lastly, the mowing will start tomorrow.
Yes. Does anyone have any questions, or did you guys have any additions? Any questions related to the building committee's work? Great, thank you. Okay, we next have the Board of Education minutes, starting with the regular meeting minutes from March the 18th. Are there any amendments, additions, or deletions? If not, I will hear a motion to approve them. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's done. We will next receive the subcommittee meeting minutes. As provided there is no objection, I would hear them as one item. So it's facilities and technology from March 11th, the budget from March 1st and March 16th, school improvement from March 4th, policy from February the 4th, and building committee from March 19th. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Those are all done. We have next the receipt of the consent agenda of appointments, retirements, and resignations. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? That is concluded, and we now are on to new information and action, beginning with field trips. They're listed together for middle school to Broadway in January of 2027, and also the middle school to Washington, D.C. in May of 2027. That is a typo. The packet reads March 25th to 28th. It is May 25th to 28th. Is that right? Great. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right, so good evening. We're proposing two trips for this evening, both for the 8th grade, full class trips. The first is Wednesday, January 27th, to go see The Outsiders on Broadway. This would be to all 8th grade students, and it aligns directly with the core novel that we read. The reason in January is to keep our teachers on track for completing that book within the time frame that we're hoping for. Normally we would present this type of a trip as the alternate to the DC trip, but because of the curricular connection and my desire to go see this play again, we're putting it in January. I've already secured 337 tickets for all staff, or for chaperones and for all students to go. So now it's just getting the approval and then fundraising the money so that we can go along with the buses. That was supposed to be the show that we saw this year, but because of the popularity of it, tickets weren't available. The day I received, I put this in, I received an email saying that they've extended the play from ending in this September through July of next year. So I immediately put in the request for tickets, knowing that if it wasn't approved, that I can cancel those. So the tickets can be canceled at any time prior to payment. The cost of the trip is around $150, which is about $50 less than what it was for Hamilton because of the cost of the outsider tickets. First concern, January, with the weather that we've had. So I did contact the the provider, and unless the performance itself is canceled, all tickets are non-refundable once paid. If the group misses the show, there is a possibility to past date their tickets for another performance, but this cannot be guaranteed. So I did ask that question. So that's the first trip. The second trip is I'm very happy to be coming back to present for the Washington, D.C. trip. I would like to bring it back as a 4-day, 3-night trip from Tuesday, May 25th to Friday, May 28th. This precedes the Memorial Day weekend. The cost of the trip, if registered before the end of the school year, is $1,124 with a $49 initial deposit to register. After June 30th, the price goes up $50 to $1,174 and an initial deposit of $115. I am wanting to move back to World Strides for several reasons. I used them for 7 of the 10 years that I ran the trip prior to the COVID cancellation. Their central office is located just outside of Washington, D.C., so it gives us that locality for safety and contact with the company. They're willing to lock in the current price for the next 3 years, which is also a huge, huge gain. They offer their own scholarship program for families, reducing the cost of the trip based on their annual income. It's a simple phone call. They don't have to provide necessarily, they provide very little paperwork to verify what their yearly income is, and the price of the trip is reduced based on the cost of what they bring in annually. They also have their own online fundraising program that allows students to write letters to family and friends or through social media, emails, and 100% of that money goes directly to their account and reduces the cost that reduces the cost of what they're paying. The cost is all-inclusive: transportation, hotel, food, all admissions, as well as personalized TMS T-shirts, a souvenir picture in front of the Capitol, and a return of the Major League Baseball game. They do have a full refund program for an additional $139 fee. It was supposed to be $169, but because of my relationship from the past years, knowing the socioeconomic makeup of our city, they did bring that down to the $139, which protects payments should a student not be able to travel, minus the protection plan and certain fees. They also have a job loss protection. Should a student not be able to travel due to a parent's job loss, they get everything back. So very nice. They do also have just started an extended payment plan, so families can call customer service to enroll. If 70% of the cost is paid by the date travel, they can continue to pay for the trip up to 6 months after the travel date. So really giving our families that opportunity who aren't otherwise able to do something like this. At this point, we would be looking at well over a year for them to register and pay for this trip. The one thing that wasn't in the application, and something that we're kind of dealing with right now with our DC trip going next week, as well as the Hamilton trip going, is chaperones being all in-house teacher chaperones and having a 1-to-9 ratio. It may be helpful to add in substitutes as part of the cost of the trip. We're having some pretty large class sizes right now. I'm trying to remember exactly the board's policy on how those substitutes are paid for. I believe it's through fundraising and through the trip. But I would like to possibly look into reserving the right to do those depending on how many students register. And just to give you a cost comparison, the 3-day trip brings the price down to $899 before early registration and $949. So that one extra day is a $225 difference. With everything that we do from basically 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, the 3 days is really a packed day, and giving it the 4 days is a much better itinerary. So, answer any questions.
Thank you. Just before we get into the questions, the board doesn't actually have a written policy requiring, to my knowledge, requiring fundraising for the subs. It's customarily what has been done. However, we have from time to time engaged in spirited discussions, you might say, about whether or not that's the morally right thing to do. I frankly don't care if the Board of Education has to cover the cost of some substitutes for a few days. They're not that expensive, and we budget for them anyway. And with that, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Lafreniere? Mr. Putnam?
I just wanted to add and say thank you for bringing the 4-day trip back. It's a great opportunity for the kids who have gone. Even the 3-day kids had a great time, but you're going to take the bus all the way down there and all the way back, and you put all those long hours in. It's great to have the time to really appreciate the opportunity that's being given to them. So thank you for bringing that back. And to your point, the cost isn't all that much different than it was for 3 days on a prior trip.
And I'll be starting fundraising right away. There's actually 7th graders who already have money banked from the SPICE fundraiser. So there's some families who anticipated having the ability to go on the trip and took part in that. So yeah.
I also just wanted to thank Mr. Lafreniere and Mr. Beckett for their efforts to put this together. Based on our conversation when we approved the trip for this year, the group had asked, what does the 4-day trip look like? What does it look like to bring that back? We've reached out to the company we're using this year as well. They were not able to respond and give us an amount of money for next year. So we did try to price shop the two of them against each other with the financial incentives for our students and families that this provided for us, as well as locking in the 3-year price, was why we made the decision to recommend switching back to this company. But we tried to price shop the both of them, but Mr. Lafreniere and Mr. Beckett did a wonderful job of trying to give the board what they had asked for and give our students back the 4-day trip.
Thank you
very much. Anyone else?
Thank you for doing that and for offering a company that allows scholarships for our students, because that's really important.
Mm-hmm. And I'll look at different grant opportunities as well as I've done in the past through the SYTA, Student Youth Travel Association. I've been able to get students' trips paid for in full, and just with outreach to the community, we've had teachers as well as community members offer to pay for students who otherwise wouldn't be able to go. So it's a great tradition in town, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it.
Anyone else? Yeah, Kristen.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the same thing. Thank you again for making this a 4-day trip again. Really, 3 is just not enough. Really, the only thing they're missing is the game, but there is more. It's about time and having a little more downtime and a little more sleep and not being on a bus, back on bookend days with only one in between. So really, thank you. But my daughter's still very much looking forward to going next week. So thank you. She doesn't need to know it used to be 4 days.
I never got a Washington, D.C. trip, as we've discussed before, so 3 days is better than the 0 that I got. Let's have a little order here for anyone else who wants to ask any questions. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on this before we bring it up for a motion? And we would, they are listed under the same item. I'm happy to hear them together for everyone's convenience, but if people would like to separate them, we certainly can hear motions and vote on the Broadway trip and Washington, D.C. separately.
I'll make a motion to take them to the pair.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, seconded by Ms. Leo. Any further discussion, questions before us? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so those are approved. We now have the healthy food certification. Those of you who've been on the board for a year or more will remember that I have to read this out precisely. So I will first hear a motion that pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 10-215F, the Torrington Public Schools certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Great. Motion's been made and seconded. So I'm happy to just give the brief overview, and then if folks have questions, maybe we could dive in a little deeper. We do this every year. It is, as I recall, associated with a grant, and it just means that we can't sell the students certain things. It doesn't, this has come up before, so I'm just going to throw it out there. It doesn't change, say, classroom birthday parties and things like that. It just means that we can't sell you certain things that don't comply with the state's standards, but it does necessitate that we read this out exactly and vote on it as it is written. It cannot be amended. And is there any other discussion or any questions?
Are there any changes from previous years?
Are there?
No.
Anyone else? Okay, then we already have a motion on the table, so all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay. That carries with just Ms. Conway voting in the negative. Okay, we have to do the second one associated with this, which is I will hear a motion that the Torrington Public Schools will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales. Is there such a motion? Is there a second? Second. Great. Motion's been made and seconded. And this is in association with, obviously, the previous motion. It just says, under certain circumstances, certain groups of people at certain events can sell certain things that we otherwise could not be selling. Is that fair? Okay. Anyone have any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? That carries and is adopted. Thank you for all the work, of course, that goes into this. I know it can be a little bit tough for this grant. We next have the 25-26 calendar update. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, good evening. As this board has already approved, June 19th will be a half-day for students and staff. I am asking the board to consider June 22nd and June 23rd, which will be our official last day of school, to also be half-days.
And those are a Monday and a Tuesday, correct?
That is correct.
I'm not explicitly opposed to that. I don't think that there are going to be, I think we are likely to see a very high rate of absences, you might say, on that day, frankly, from students and employees. So I'm kind of fine with that. But what does the rest of the board think? Yeah, I mean, it's just tough, right? We're going late into June because statutorily we have to have 181 days, but it's really tough to tell people that you've got to come back to work and you've got to come back to school that late in June. So, there's not going to be a lot of learning going on anyway. So I will hear a motion to amend the calendar to make those, it's the 22nd and 23rd of June, half days, if there is such a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Great, made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, Gary is opposed. He wants you to come to work and stay at work all day on the last day of school. Don't let him forget it. Yeah. Great, thank you. That is approved. Those will be half-days. So I know that the committee for the chiller and the landscaping bid did not make a recommendation, but you did mention to me before the meeting started, Dean, that you had some answers to some of the questions they raised, so now would be the time if you wanted to share that.
Yeah, as far as the chiller goes, not going with the purchase cooperative streamlined procurement, that's going to go out to public bid. That is in the lawyer's hands now as we speak also to get the back end of that squared away. So I'm waiting for him to give me that so that can go out to public bid. As far as the landscaping goes, again, I spoke to our lawyer right after that last meeting, and the decision to not include the performance and bid bond was solely based on how we broke up the project into smaller segments so that local, smaller contractors can bid on it. The fear was smaller local contractors wouldn't have the capabilities of getting a bid, especially in that time frame that we were looking at. I apologize not remembering that detail in the last meeting, but this was not something that we just said we're going to take out. It was long discussed as we were segmenting the whole RFQ to break it up into those sections as you guys have in front of you. So that was the reason why, because afraid that people would not bid the job that couldn't get bonded, both performance and bid bond in a timely fashion or at all. Come to find out, there was only 2 people who bid, and it didn't play out like we thought it would as far as breaking this up into smaller bids and getting local people in there to do it. So I just want to clarify that's the reason why it wasn't something that we did without any discussion and thought.
Thank you. Now, while we're on the topic, were both of the landscaping contract bidders qualified? I thought I heard that one of them may not have completed the bid packet.
Yes, one of them did not complete the bid package that we asked for stuff in the bid. The second one completed everything that was asked for, but we didn't ask for the 2 things we just spoke about.
Right, right. Okay, so there was only one actually qualified bidder. What is going to happen, I guess? So the committee took no action. Are we looking to send this back out because there was only one qualified bidder, or what's the grand plan here for the folks who were part of that discussion?
So, Joe, you got?
No, we talked about one plan there. I didn't know if this bit of information would change that. That's why I'm bringing it. I wanted to bring it to your attention that, that bit of information. So go ahead, Jeff.
Sure. What we had spoke about in the last meeting was sending it back out for an expedited bid with the performance bond in it. And at that point, anybody could rebid it, of course, who had been to the actual walkthrough, I believe. That's where we landed in the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so the consensus seems to be among the committee members that that's kind of where we would like to go, is to
Can I just say one
rebid it.
thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Unrelated to that discussion, they're the committee members. So the one thing I would be worried about, I was mentioning it to Glenn, to get landscapers to get performance and payment bonds, I mentioned to Glenn, I think that might possibly hurt us. I mean, what was the total for the contract?
Approximately $260 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood.
300 a year. A lot of the local guys, you'll find very few local anything that actually will go out and get a payment performance bond because they have to sign personal. They have to sometimes, put their house, sign their house away. I mean, I get payment and performance bonds, but I have to really provide a substantial PFS and bank account. So again, I don't stand on any side of this. I'm not sure what the outcome will be.
And that was the exact,
You may not get bids, but you may.
that was the exact thought of the lawyer and I when we put this together to get it out was we weren't going to get local guys to bid it. Or not just local, I keep on saying, but smaller people who would take on a smaller job to bid it if they wouldn't be able to we wouldn't be able to put it together. So again, I think, and I don't know if this could be done, but I think the bidder who completed his paperwork probably wouldn't have a problem giving us a performance bond.
To me, at least, if, now that we're further into discussion, if we ask for this performance bond, it doesn't seem like it's really going to change anything, other than giving these guys, like, Jesperson's not going to lower his number just because he saw the other guys, you know what I mean? He's not going to leave money on the table. Like, rebidding this, it doesn't seem like it's going to get us anywhere, other than, now that I'm looking at this, and from where we're at, it doesn't seem like it's just going to drag it out longer for no reason.
I mean,
We're not
my
gonna get
thought,
into it.
frankly, is just that when you have, two people who are, or two entities which are interested in a contract, and one of them screws it up somehow, sending it back out would entitle them to complete their bid paperwork. And in this case, they were the low bidder, which is kind of what I'm interested in, especially when the next highest, right, the other bidder was a substantial price difference. So, there's some legwork involved, of course, but the amount of money we can save year over year, if we were able to even consider accepting the lower bidder, would be pretty serious. And the only reason why we can is because there was, from what I understand, it was the non-collusion and the equipment list. So we can't ask them to cure it, right? But if we send it back out, they can submit their package with those things. So, that's the issue, is if it were legal and legitimate to just say, hey, can you cure these issues, these deficiencies with your bid, then we could consider two different bidders. But I don't really relish the idea of somebody, the more expensive option, winning a contract by default, especially when it costs the taxpayer a significant amount more. That's kind of where I sit. But maybe I'm not understanding it or seeing the whole picture.
That's the unfortunate part of bidding a job. That's I mean, I'm not saying that, like, oh, therefore, like, well, we're just going to spend more money and that's the way it is, but, that's the process of bidding jobs. You run that risk. Yeah, they give you a checklist for a reason, so.
Can you reach out to them? Is it legal to reach out to both of them? Because I don't know if either one can get a performance bond, but if you should find out, can you call them to see if they can provide? Because if your low bidder can't, he's not going to be able to submit.
I could, I definitely want to
I mean,
get
it would
the
save you
lawyer
some time
involved with
if you
this
find out they
process
can
right
or
now.
they can't.
I want to get the lawyer involved in this process a little bit more, just because even not awarding it to Jesperson right now kind of, could be something. So I called him quickly to give you guys the answer on that. I guess I will talk to him tomorrow to see how we can move forward. Either way, going out to bid, or if, again, quickly, and requiring a performance bond and a bid bond, or if the bond can be added to this. Is that what you're asking, Mr. Ucalito?
Well, no, I'm asking who qualify, can they do it? What will happen is if they can't, and you go back out to bid, you're going to have to go back out to bid. They're not going to bid, and you're going to get higher bids, because the bidders are going to be people who have an issue. But if you ask them now, can they provide the bond, both of them, they both can arrange to get the bonds if it's possible. So again, the low bidder might be the one who gets the bond. I don't, just to avoid an extra 2 or 3 weeks of going back and forth, because time is of the essence, and if they can't get a bond, you need to find out. I mean, you can call me and I'd say, yes, I can get a bond up to X amount of dollars, so they can stay in the pool. But at least know they're not going to be kicked out of the pool because they can't get them. You know what I'm saying?
Unfortunately, Mr. Ucalito, I totally agree with what you're saying. However, that would be legitimate and a great option if both parties had their packet complete, to Mr. Kaleja's point. But because one party did not, you cannot call both parties and ask for that. You would only be able to ask for the party that would be awarded the bid as an add-on. The only other option would be to go out to the expedited process again, unfortunately, because, as I said, both parties would have to be equal to make any call back to ask for the same document from either party. You can't just call both parties if one did not have everything in, and then say, I need this and this. It would not be prudent to do that.
Just one thing. I think part of the contention in the previous meeting was that the bid package as presented to the committee was to include performance bonds. And to the knowledge, they didn't have the knowledge that the performance bond was removed from the bid package that was actually submitted. I think we had all agreed that projects of that value, as we learned with the snow plowing, should be mandatory to include performance bonds in the contract value. I'm going to say that contract for the lowest responsible bidder in that package was $900,000 for 3 years. That's a significant amount of money, and I think that would warrant performance bonds as such. I mean, the bonds are there to protect the owner, us, the Board of Ed, as we learned with the snow plowing. And maybe this is going to be a policy discussion where we need to rewrite policy, 3010, I believe, on procurement and purchasing. We need to have our standards and guidelines. Even purchasing through your consortium. I mean, just going out and getting 3 quotes, it should be a formal RFQ, just like a bid package. That RFQ has to go out, which has detailed scope of work, whether a performance bond is required. All those things need to be presented to someone to get a proposal so we have an accurate number. It's not just sending out, hey, give me a quote to, replace 5 tables in the cafeteria. It's got to have a detailed scope of work, even if buying off a contract to avoid the bid process. It still should have a formal scope of work and detailed requirements, just as a formal bid package would. So I think the big disconnect here was that the performance bonds were removed without the committee's knowledge, so that's why they chose not to move it forward. So I think that's the big contention here, in my opinion. Whether policy needs to add it to theirs and start talking about revising the purchasing requirements.
Can we, in the future, because I'm the one who said we need to set up performance and payment and performance bonds and a lot of things, I would worry about, at a certain level, we would be probably getting much higher price, depending on who has to qualify for the bonds. Can we put out, not in this case, but future, can you put out a request for a project or whatever it may be with a bond preference, with or without 2 different prices, so somebody without a bond can bid and we can cover both? Because I don't know how public bids work, but, for certain things, we don't want to overpay. I'm not referring to here, but in general, there are certain things that bonds will preclude certain people from doing, especially local people. And it's just something we'll have to talk about to figure out, to see if we don't eliminate a lot of individuals or different LLCs that just can't put up a bond for smaller values. I don't know what that value is, but we should talk about it.
So maybe it would be helpful, just so that there's some direction. And this is just a straw poll, this is not a vote. If you want this to go back out to bid in lieu of simply accepting the current single qualified bidder, raise your hand.
Wait, with or without?
We'll get
the
there.
bond?
That's going to be the second question. First, I want to know if we're ready to accept Jesperson's bid as it is, or if we want to go back out. Yeah, okay, so here's the issue. We do have a qualified bidder based on the bid spec that was sent, which did not include a performance bond. The board, because of that, could, right now, accept the Jesperson bid and just move along. I don't think we want to do that. I don't want to do that, but I need to know, because if that is what the board wants to do, then any discussion or directive about performance bonds effectively is moot, because we're just accepting a bid. So if we're not going to do that, that's okay. Then we can talk about whether we want to go back out with a performance bond or without one. You see what I'm saying? So it's preclusive. First, I need to know, is the board going to override the decision of the committee, which it has the right to do, and accept this bid? Because there was some discussion about doing that. Or are we going to go back out? Yes. I've spoken with council on the essential question of whether you can ask a bidder to cure their bid. And I suspected the answer would be no, and it is. We cannot say, hey, you didn't submit this. It's not permissible. So there's only one qualified bidder right now. The committee voted not to do anything. It did not vote to recommend to the board that we go back out to bid, unless I'm misunderstanding its report.
No, we did not make a motion. We just didn't send it to the full board. We gave the facilities folks the direction that we would like to see an expedited rebid.
Okay, so that was the committee's decision.
That was the committee's decision.
Okay.
Just we
There's
didn't
no
make a
official
motion
motion.
for it because it wasn't, the motion would have been to send it to the full board, which we did not do.
Well, actually, the Board of Education still does need to cast a vote on directing the administration to send this back out to bid. The committee doesn't have that power because it hasn't been delegated the ability to do so, and with contracting, the recorded vote matters. So we have to vote on that, and we also have to decide if we want them to put a performance bond in this or not. Those are the two questions. They're somewhat linked, but they are distinct.
So I'm new to this, performance bond stuff, but would it make sense to go straight back to Jesperson and ask for him to get a performance bond? Since, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this the company that came to our rescue when the old company left us high and dry?
For snow plowing, yes.
And isn't he currently our landscaper with glowing references and great recommendations? And he's also a former Torrington Public School student, which in my mind, says a lot because he's giving back to us, we're giving back to him. So would it make sense to just go straight to him and ask for performance bond?
My understanding is that it would be legally acceptable to do so because he's a qualified bidder. So we could ask him to place an addendum of a performance bond. So it would be legally acceptable to do so. If you want to know my opinion, I think he's the much higher bid, and it would be better for the taxpayer to at least have acceptable options placed before the board. Because right now, due to the deficiency of the other bid, there is only one legally permissible option.
But I feel like the other guy, if he didn't follow through on these basic, these qualifications for submitting a bid, is he going to follow through on the job?
That's what the bond's for.
Mr. Pergola think?
I think that he did not complete the paperwork, and that does reflect sometimes. And he also did not give me a list of the equipment he has. So if this goes out to bid, and let's just say he bids with the performance bond, I still have to make that assumption that everything is in line. I have to go out and take a look at his equipment, make sure everything is there. And as I explained in the earlier meeting, if you look at the cost that we are paying, we would have been paying as opposed to what we are paying, is really not as much as it looks. It does look like that comparing prices, but we can go back to comparing prices to the snow plowing, and we know where that landed us. So I have a reputable, responsible contractor that's bidding it right now, who actually has been doing some work on the cuff right now for us. He lined our I forget the sport, the pole vaulting sport, the track. He did that for us, because we didn't have a contract in place. So, and we did not ask for it for that reason. So we didn't ask for the performance bond and the bid bond for that reason. It didn't happen that way. And again, if you look at what we were paying him, or what we would have paid him, as opposed to what he's asking for this new contract with an increased scope of work, and his reputable and appreciative help that he's given us, I would recommend going with Jesperson.
I just would say, in reference to work quality and performance bonds, while we're giving reviews, this is the same contractor who dumped fill full of broken glass into our athletic fields and then tried to charge us to clean it up. Now, that was some years ago, but, no matter how reputable somebody is, I advocated at that time for terminating the contract early because it was such an egregious breach of performance. So, you know, that's, I think I'm it's certainly in strong agreement with Mr. Berger that there ought to be a performance bond. Just, I've been here long enough to see what even landscape contractors can do to a school district. It doesn't seem like they can screw things up that badly, but they most certainly can. And this contractor has. And again, that's a long time ago, and I think he's performed well since. I don't want to defame him, but that happened. It's factual. So, you know, I really would much prefer to put it back out to bid, but that's, I think, why we ought to, at this point, get like a view from everybody. And if there's a majority in support of that, we'll do it. If there's a majority in support of accepting the bid as it is and asking for a performance bond as an addendum, we can do that. I mean, you know, I don't tell the board what to do. The board tells me what to do. I just want to know where we're going. Go ahead.
Quick question, do we have the time to go back out to bid? Sorry, Dean, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but.
Well, I mean, well, the grass is growing. So, you know, I mean, we have nobody to cut the grass right now. Yeah, I guess if we did go out, if we did go out to bid again and it was a 5 or 6 or 7 day, and then by the time, you know, we go through the contract and all that, it might be 2 weeks. I don't know if we would sub it out and get a price to somebody come in and cut it quickly. I really don't know, to be honest with you. So, you know, as you can tell by your grass and the rainy nights and sunny days right now, it's popping, it's growing everywhere. And, you know, we did some stuff around here to maintain and got rid of the leaves. I had our guys going out during break, and all the schools, they went out and they did, you know, some general cleanup so it's presentable. And that's where we stand. So I don't have a, you know.
If we were to expedite this, you could set a date, get bids back by the end of the last day of the month. The review of the bid is not going to change. Nothing's changed about the bid. You're not going to get more bidders, I would think, from asking for a performance bond. You're going to get the same 2 guys bidding this. The numbers are going to have changed. You're going to look at the numbers. The scope of work's not going to change. The evaluation shouldn't take much longer, or long at all, I should say. I don't foresee this, if we put this back out to bid, taking too long. I mean, these guys don't have to come back out here, take pictures, look at the site. They know exactly what's going to go down. If anything, the only time-consuming thing is that now they know each other's numbers, and they're going to have to play that game internally and be competitive and see how much they can shave the number if they want. That's the only thing that's going to take time. And by the end of the month should, in my eyes, be enough. That's how I look at that.
And I'm okay with facilities people, the committee, what they've, it's their recommendation. I wouldn't go against it, but I'm still worried about what happens if they can't get the performance bonds. Then we're going to have a longer delay. So I think somehow, some way, we need to investigate whether or not they can get them, because if you wait till the end of the month and neither one bids because they can't get bonds.
It sounds like if they don't get the bond, we wouldn't really be interested in possibly having them do the work in the first place. So
Well, I understand. That's what I'm saying. As a policy, we have to decide, because it may force us into a much more expensive level. I don't know how landscapers work, but I don't know many that can get them, but we have talked about needing them. I just don't know how it's going to help us by the end of the month, that's all. I'm just looking at, if it were me, I'd be worried about that because of the schedule, but I'll go with what the committee recommends.
Okay, so my read here is that there's a majority in support of the committee's recommendation to go back out through the expedited bid process, but we have not heard from Mr. Kisco or Mr. Knight. So I guess I just want to straw poll this again. If folks want to, here's what we're straw polling. You're going to raise your hand if you either want to or are content with going with the committee's recommendation to send this back out through an expedited bid process with a performance bond. Raise your hand. Okay, all right, so that's a clear majority. So I will, at this point, now that we know the direction the board is going to vote for, I will hear a motion to do just that. Is there a second? Okay, so made by Mr. Knight, seconded by Mr. Kalesha. Any further discussion on the question before us? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Leo, anybody else opposed? And Mr. Cronin, any abstentions? Okay, so that's adopted. So now we know what we're doing with that. Yeah, well, we just cast the vote. So if you want to continue discussion on these items, I suppose it's within the rules to do so.
Well, if you're talking about landscaping, go ahead and you speak first. Turn your mic on.
To avoid coming to the end of the bid process, end of the month, and not having anybody with performance bonds available, does the facilities committee want to agree to not require it for this particular bid? Or are we going to insist on that and go out to bid with only performance bonds on this particular contract? Because I don't know what we're going to run up against, or at least we should talk about it before we get there.
The board just voted to direct that there will be performance bonds included in the bid spec. That's what we just voted for.
Can I answer Gary's question? I mean, that's something the policy committee should take up and draft in policy. To extend what for another month? No, hold on a minute.
No, I'm saying, but we go out to the end, and neither one can provide a performance bond. Then we're going to have to go out and request performance bonds from other bidders, is all I'm saying, who are more qualified. And that will push us out further. I don't know how far we can go. I'm just,
What are you looking to extend?
if we don't get any bidders by the end of the month because they can't get performance bonds, these two people.
Okay,
So let's ask them first.
okay.
If they come in and they say we can't get them, then we're at the end of the month, we have no bidders. Well, that's not, we can't do that.
Well, to be clear, the same result will occur, right? If only one of the bidders now, under what we just voted for, if only one of the bidders can get a performance bond, they're now the only bidder who's qualified. So if that's what happens, that's what happens. And I don't see the point. He either can or he can't. The board wants there to be a performance bond. The board has voted that there shall be a performance bond. So why are we beating a dead horse on this? And worst case, we can emergency contract out the mowings and any other services. I don't think that it'll come to that, and I don't want that. But the lawn will be mowed. I don't think that that will occur. If it is, you can tell everyone that you were right and I was wrong at the next meeting.
It'll give us an indication of what we can expect if they don't get them. That's all I'm saying. I do it all the time in terms of trying to find out who's qualified, what I have to provide a bond for, what I don't have to provide a bond for. I stay out of those things if I can't provide the value. But the people who can might be some of the larger firms that probably will come in higher. So at least we can know tomorrow if Jesperson can provide one or not. Let's ask the question, because it may be an indication of whether we can get the bids or not. I would do that if it was my job.
Look, if you want to call them and ask them that outside of the formal bid process, nobody can stop you. So, okay, great. Just please don't meddle with the bid process here at central office. But if you really need to satisfy your own burning curiosity, feel free. Sure, and look, the board has voted, you voted in favor. If you want to recall the motion and have a second vote, you have that right. Okay, great. We will now hear about the roof project update.
One axis, could we back up to the chiller? Because last time, I just wondering why it's going out to bid versus the, through the source well. Is there any more?
Well, because that was the consensus of the board.
They talked about that in facilities? No, about going back, putting it out to bid versus buying off buying off a contract?
Mr. Pergola had indicated that he had the bids for the equipment, he was going to get official spec together for all the remaining services. That was the way I understood it at the end of that meeting.
Yeah.
And he was going to bring that information, if he chose it and got it all together, he was going to bring it to tonight's meeting, but it was my assumption when it wasn't in the packet that he hadn't gotten that far, something that held up, and which happens,
Yeah.
we're busy and that's a lot of moving pieces to that particular
But now it's going
project.
out to bid versus buying off state contract.
That's what he informed us, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was at that committee meeting. I don't remember talking about, hey, not buying off state contract and avoiding the bid process, but now we're going to go out to the bid process.
Yes. now it's going out to bid through a public bid process. After speaking to the boss that next day, we decided, we thought the intention was to not use our procurement source well that we had and to go out to bid. So that's how we move forward.
Okay.
And we're still waiting for, we have not gone out to bid. I'm waiting for the paperwork from the lawyer to present to you guys before we go out to bid.
Okay, I'm sorry, my confusion. I thought we were going to be charging forward, buying through a contract to avoid the bid process. That's what I remembered last. If I'm incorrect, my apologies.
Thank you. So now, we will hear about the roof project update. The referendum passed. I guess the questions are, has the city authorized the bond issuances? And if so, where are we at in getting the project moving ahead?
I'm going to let Donna take that one.
Yes, we heard from the state, and they wanted to just clarify 2 questions. One was the referendum count, and also there was one question about the bids. And so we are waiting. We gave them their answers, and we are awaiting their reply. So we're just waiting on the state now to give us our final approval for that.
Do we still feel good about a summertime project? I mean, we're getting real close.
I'll defer to Mr. Pergola.
That's what we're hoping for.
And what do we think the odds are? I mean, I'm asking, look, if the answer is probably not, I mean, that's the answer. I just kind of want to know, because we're getting close, and these things can be slow.
I'm 0 for 2 tonight, so I'm going to say that the odds are in my favor. So yeah, I think we should be able to get this off and running before school starts.
Fabulous. Does anyone else have anything related to the roof project? Okay, thank you. Okay, the forensic audit vendor selection. So just so everyone's clear on the occurrences, the board did engage a vendor, and then shortly after being engaged, that vendor stopped responding. I think we've discussed this once before. Stopped responding to both the board's legal counsel and the board's administrative employees. So we have terminated our relationship with that vendor without having written them any checks for any services and without any services being rendered. And so because this has been put out to bid before, the advice we received from the board's counsel is that we can now accept one of the other bids. I believe there were 3 that came in for that. So we can just do that without having to go through a bid process, without having to re-engage the board's legal counsel on this matter. So is it in the packet here somewhere, the amount, or can you tell me the amount that we're seeking? So I see the proposals. I'm asking you. Oh, okay.
Yes, so there were 2 other vendors that we could look into that made it to, the amount of the second vendor was around $32,000, and the third vendor was about $40,000. But I do think it would be worthwhile for us to, reach out, and as you noted, our attorney said that we just need permission to do so, to get more accurate and up-to-date information on those on the prices, and if they're willing to do the actual work. We could bring that back to you.
Okay, I understood this agenda item to be that we would be selecting a vendor and moving ahead. So the way we would structure the motion, because I see what you're saying, that we want to make sure that the 32,000 still holds. So what I would propose, and which one was it? Was it Cohn-Resnick who was 32,000?
Grassi was the 32, and the other was Cohn-Resnick was the 40. But again, we would need to see if they'd want to engage.
Right. So what I would do is, and this is subject to discussion, of course, but what I would suggest is we would do the motion structured that we would authorize the administration to accept that bid, provided that it remains valid, meaning they're going to honor that bid price. in the amount of $32,000 and authorize them to engage the firm if that is the case. So basically, go ahead and do it as long as they're not raising the price. Does that seem amenable to folks? Do folks have other discussion items related to this? What are people thinking?
The same as with the other vendor that didn't show up. Do we know anything about these two bidders? Are they both qualified, that we checked other qualifications?
Yeah, and the interesting part is all three of these vendors were qualified and had good references. So it was very shocking for the initial vendor to simply disappear. And what I mean by that is not just a single contact. I mean, we reached out directly to their office. We tried to reach multiple people. So I don't know if something bad happened to this company, but they just disappeared. But they were, at that time, considered quite reputable and had met all of the standards. I've never heard of Grazi. I've heard of Cohn Resnick, if that maybe is helpful.
Well, I know it's a much smaller dollar value, and it's not normal for something of that size, but that's the whole purpose of bid bonds.
I think it is a good example, although in order to use the current bids in front of us, we have to maintain the bid spec that they were submitted under in this particular matter. Anyone else? Okay, so I would hear a motion to the effect that the administration be authorized to engage, was it Grazi?
Correct.
For those forensic audit services in an amount up to $32,000, provided that that bidded amount is still an available price for those services.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's taken care of. Almost there. The updated capital plan 2026-2027. We've been over this. It's been discussed. It was even presented to the council, but just due to the timing of, or sorry, to the Board of Finance, but just due to the timing of that meeting last night versus this one, the board does need to formally adopt this and discuss it. And obviously, if the board makes changes tonight, we will submit those to the city in accordance with the board's wishes. But do folks have any discussion, anything that's really burning a hole in your pocket on this? Okay, so then I would hear a motion to approve the presented and amended 2026-2027 capital plan. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that is adopted. Sorry, I crossed off the wrong thing. We have 2026-2027 budget. We presented it to the Board of Finance. I don't really have anything else beyond that. I sort of had this placed on here as placeholder in case there was something of question or note from that meeting. Does anyone on this side of the table want to bring up anything about the budget that we don't already know or that you're wanting to discuss? No, did anyone on the Board of Ed side, or do we feel good about where we are and just wait for the city? Go ahead, Mr. Prunell.
I'll just add that I think it was one of the more productive meetings that we've had with the city. It was a respectful meeting. There was no massive disagreements or anything, so hopefully it was a good step forward with the new administration.
Thank you. And just on the budget note, I am hearing pretty consistently that in the next couple of weeks before the legislative session ends, the legislature intends to adopt a plan that will fund towns and cities for education on top of the current appropriation, somewhere between 2 and 7% of what they get in ECS and Alliance. So for Torrington, that's between about 600,000 and 2.4 million. The structure remains in flux. I believe it will go straight to the towns and cities as revenue for them, which is not my preferred mechanism, but it's just something to keep an eye on, that I will keep an eye on the board's behalf, because there's probably some education money somewhere for either us or the city or both. We just have to wait another week and a half or so to see it. Okay, next is the policy that Gary discussed. It's admission to the public schools at or before age 5, review of Shipman and Goodwin's update of the legislation. Do you want to take that, Sue?
Yes,
Kim,
yep,
somebody?
I'll go ahead and start. So you may recall a few years ago, the date for which students can enroll in kindergarten was moved from, it used to be December 1st, and then they moved it, or January 1st, and then they moved it to September 1st. And in that change, school districts were required to offer a waiver process for families of students who were in that window. And now the new law, which goes into effect July 1st, 2026, changes that slightly. So July 1st, 2027, the waiver option is going to go away completely. But for the school year 26-27, boards of education have an option to offer the waiver or not. So there has not been a model policy that has been created by Shipman and Goodwin yet for us to actually adopt. But in the interest of time, because of the fact that we have to kind of begin our kindergarten screening process and everything now, and I'm going to defer to Sue to add anything more on that, we need to know from the board, just as a straw poll, to confirm whether or not the board would like to move forward with an optional waiver process for this 26-27 school year, or not offer that waiver process.
I think it's important just to add that the policy committee spoke about this, and I believe it was unanimous among the committee members that we adhere to the law as it's written and stick with September 1st. So if a child does not turn 5 by September 1st, they are not eligible for kindergarten.
I have questions, and then, well, John, but you go first. I usually go first. You go first this time.
No, only to say that there were a large number of our educators at that policy committee meeting, and they were universally against younger children in the kindergarten classes.
How many students are currently benefiting from that waiver? Yeah, how many have it, I guess, if you don't want to use the word benefiting? How many kids got the waiver this year?
For this current school year, we screened maybe 20 students and enrolled 6, I believe.
Okay, so it's a very small population of students who are...
It is a small population, yes.
Anyone else have anything? Okay, because this is sort of a, well, actually, what does the board's policy currently say about this?
We don't
Does it say anything?
No, and that's, so the way that this is written is that if the board decides to stick with, the child becoming age eligible on September 1, the board has to do nothing. If the board decides they want to allow the waiver, then the board would need to adopt an early admission policy.
And what are the criteria under which you evaluated those approximately 20 students and admitted 6?
We gave the same evaluation, the same screening tool we used that we used on all the children that entered kindergarten. So there's some academic components, behavioral components, how easily does the child separate from the parent, what is the attention span, that sort of thing.
Okay, so if the board takes no action, then there would be no...
If the board takes no action, and then we can just not allow the waiver this year.
So I guess my thought is the board would effectively be establishing what is then an administrative policy, where if the board is silent on the issue, then the administration makes the policy, similar to like the student handbook, right? If the policy manual from the board is silent, the administration can set the rules.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, that's how it's written, yeah.
Right. Or the board can, at its leisure, simply take a vote to decline an early admission, right? So that we can we can make the board responsible for this. If the board wants to do that as well, it's really open to the group.
I think that's a good idea, to take the administration and not make them responsible for making decisions like
I agree with Jim.
Kristen?
Go ahead.
Not so much regarding that question. I do just want to reiterate and kind of piggyback on what John said a little bit. We did hear some very compelling arguments to not allow 4-year-olds to attend kindergarten and really have that strict cutoff of September 1st. I think it was Sandy Mangan who really gave us some good stats about the long-term and short-term effects of a child starting early. And it was really a compelling argument, kind of changed my mind, so to speak. So I guess if you were in that meeting, you might have some more information. I know this is kind of a touchy subject. As I had said in the policy committee meeting, I started both of my kids early, and I wish I had that information that Sandy told us a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry, Miss Mangan. I wish I had that information when I started my kids in kindergarten, because I probably would have held at least one of them back.
Jeff?
I think it's also worth just reminding everybody that Connecticut is one of the very last states to move to this 5-year requirement on September 1st. If I'm not mistaken, over 80% of the United States already requires this. So we're just late to the party on something that's already been proven. The data has existed for decades on the benefits of this.
Okay, anyone else want to discuss or question? So if at this time there is a motion to, I suppose to be fair, either permit or expressly not permit early admission, now would be the time to make that motion.
I move that we expressly not allow early admission for kindergartners.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, so made by Mr. Knight, seconded by Mr. Uccolito. Any discussion on the question before us? So just to be clear, if you vote yes here, you are voting to not have early admission. And with that, I will take the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that carries. We should at some point probably stick this into the policy manual somewhere because the board has voted to adopt this as its formal policy. I guess I didn't raise that, but we can put it in there kind of whatever now that the vote's been taken.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're checking for when the new model policy comes out, and as soon as it does, we'll bring it forward.
Right, but in the meantime, because we did just take a board vote, maybe just a line that, like the board shall not permit early admission waivers, just so that it's clear that this is the board's vote and the board's policy, and it's not something that the big bad central office is doing to people.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that is done. So we have our new item 11. This draft communication was passed down. You have it in front of you for Mr. Knight's benefit and the benefit of the public. I'm just going to read it. It's communication from the superintendent to Mayor Spino that reads, "This letter is to notify you that the Torrington Board of Education is no longer using 355 Midgeon Avenue for educational purposes. Our Director of Facilities has worked closely with the Public Works Director, Mr. Sikora, to ensure that the building was emptied and ready to be transferred back to the City of Torrington. As a result, the city will now regain its exclusive use, as well as properly maintaining that property, including all utilities and services needed." So we've talked about this before. When you don't have an educational use for a building, in theory, we can hold on to it for a couple of years in case we might, but I think we're all at a point, where our central office folks are telling us that they don't need this building and don't anticipate needing it, and we all know that it needs lots of repairs and it's kind of expensive to heat. So it's our benefit to transfer it, and our budget also does not reflect a heating oil purchase. So if we do decide to keep this, we're going to have to make that change. Does anyone have any questions or have any discussion on this? Okay, yeah.
Just thank you to everybody who participated in pulling all the stuff out of that building. That basement had decades worth of things, so thank you.
And I would just ask that, I know that you're going to mail it, but the city is a little bit antsy to receive this, so if we could email it to Attorney Kalinowski, that would probably be desirable on their end, although I'm just going to put on the record, I really hope they don't sell it for $1. But with that, I will hear a motion to authorize the superintendent to approve this communication and to authorize the superintendent to send it to the mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's done. Someone's going to destroy the woodwork in that building. I just know it. Okay, we next have, okay, I just want to make sure I read this right. Possible executive session regarding a memorandum of agreement between the Torrington Board of Education and the Torrington Public Schools Administrators Association regarding the position of Director of Athletics Activities, PK through 12, Physical Education, Health, and Wellness. That is a cumbersome title. Is there a motion to enter into executive session inviting in the superintendent and Ms. Schulte? Is there a second? All those in favor? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we are in executive session at 8:08. We are back in open session at whatever time it is, 8:22. We have next possible action regarding memorandum of agreement between the Torrington Board of Education and the Torrington Public Schools Administrators Association regarding the position of Director of Athletics Activities, PK through 12, PE, Health, and Wellness. Is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding as presented to the board?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? We are good there. Items for the upcoming agenda will probably include budget rescission. We'll hopefully have some more of these projects and capital improvements moving along. That's all that I've got on top of my head. Anyone else have anything? Great. Comments for the good of the order. We are running late, so I'm not going to go through every person. If you have something you would like to say for the good of this body, raise your hand and say it. Mr. Knight.
Through my counselor, they're applying for a new one for me, but that's going to take some time.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kisco had his hand up.
Your allusion to Raskolnikov's nightmare was entirely accurate, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. Actually, I just want to reemphasize something the superintendent discussed with us. On Saturday, we are having the ribbon cutting for this building. Everyone should please join us for that. 9 a.m.? 9 a.m. Future meetings we have, they are in the agenda. I'm not going to read them out. All members have copies. They're available to the public. I will hear a motion to adjourn. Is there-
1 second.
Oh, yes.
What about the Board of Ed retreat on Monday? Do we need to list that on here?
Oh, yes, we are pending, and I have to ask you to post that, by the way. We are having the Board of Education's retreat on Monday at 6 o'clock. It is at the Chamber of Commerce. Anyone else? Okay, I will hear a motion to adjourn.